Chapter 309. After the Supreme Elder put on his clothes in a panic, the warrior began again. Soon, under the Supreme Elder's embarrassment, Ning Tian found the flaws of these spiritual herbs one by one and made corresponding adjustments. The group of people from the Tianma cult also saw the power of these spiritual herbs after the enhancement, the power attached to the flames, and the freezing technique given by the ice. There was also the Gale spiritual herb. Some disciples whose strength had not reached the Saint Emperor realm directly gained the ability to fly after swallowing this medicine. This was in various senses. These spiritual herbs improved by the Patriarch had achieved a heaven-defying effect, greatly increasing the combat strength of the Tianma cult disciples. Tisk. As expected of the Patriarch. As expected of the god of our Tianma cult, the group of disciples and elders could not help but shake their heads and sigh. Not bad, that's about it. Leave the things that need to be forged to Lin Hao in the forging hall, Ning Tian muttered. After delegating the matter to Lin Hao, he looked around. But found that Luo Wuqing's figure had long disappeared. Ning Tian frowned, and his heart could not help but tighten. He hurriedly circulated his spirit energy to sense his surroundings. Soon, he sensed a familiar aura in the direction of the demonic palace. Phew! Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. After that, he instructed the Supreme Elder and the others to pack the spiritual herbs in batches. Then, he stepped into the void and left. In the demonic palace, the void appeared, and Ning Tian stepped out of it and appeared in the main hall. Luo Wuqing was here. She leaned her back against the magnificent stone pillar in the main hall and raised her head slightly, a hint of confusion in her beautiful eyes. Seeing this scene, Ning Tian could not help but be stunned for a moment, and his brows furrowed slightly. It was the first time he had seen his wife in such a state. Wife? Ning Tian's voice carried some doubt. At this moment, Luo Wuqing finally reacted. A hint of panic appeared on her face, but she quickly recovered. She slowly opened her mouth, and her voice was as cold as ever. Husband, have you finished preparing the elixirs?
Yes.
Ning Tian nodded slightly, then walked over and gently pulled her into his arms. Honey, you seem to have something on your mind? Luo Wuqing was silent for a moment. Her red lips parted slightly, and she said extremely calmly, the Righteous Tao Alliance has made a new move. They are near the northern part of the Tianma cult. I hope husband can bring your demonic horde disciples there. Oh? Has the Righteous Alliance made a new move? Ning Tian's eyes flashed. Yes. Luo Wuqing nodded and replied with a grunt. Really? The corners of Ning Tian's mouth curled into a smile. Then, he reached out his hand and gently pinched Luo Wuqing's delicate chin, gently lifting her beautiful face. The two looked at each other. Ning Tian looked at Luo Wuqing and said in a deep voice, Say it, what are you hiding from me? Why do you want me to bring the demonic horde disciples away? To send me away? Luo Wuqing looked away and was silent for a moment. Then, she said in a cold voice, What do I have to hide from you? If I tell you to go, you, however. Before she could finish her words, a familiar aura instantly approached her. A mouth was instantly pressed onto her red lips. Wu. Although Luo Wuqing was already very familiar with this kind of thing, she was still somewhat flustered by this sudden attack. She almost subconsciously used her spiritual energy to send Ning Tian flying, but she restrained herself. Wu. Suddenly, her beautiful face flushed red and her eyes widened. This guy he stuck out his tongue. Too much. But soon, under Ning Tian's fierce attack, she was defeated. After a while, the two hugged each other tightly, gasping for breath. Ning Tian proudly looked at Luo Wuqing, whose face was still slightly red. This is the result of hiding things from your husband. If you don't finish talking, believe it or not, pay. Shameless. Luo Wuqing's beautiful face was red. Facing this shameless husband, she had no way to deal with him. So, you'd better be obedient and say it. Ning Tian looked at Luo Wuqing in his arms and said seriously. Luo Wuqing pondered for a long time. Forget it. In the end, she faintly sighed. She looked at Ning Tian and slowly said, Husband, listen to me slowly. Ning Tian looked dignified and nodded. Immediately, Luo Wuqing told the whole story. A few minutes later, Ning Tian's face was incomparably dignified. The atmosphere in the hall instantly became very heavy. He looked at Luo Wuqing and asked in a low voice, "Wife, are you sure the information Heavenly Charms gave you is true?" After all, Heavenly Charms could only be considered a business partner. Her information couldn't be completely trusted. Besides, Ning Tian really couldn't figure out why she would reveal this information to them. "It's true." Luo Wuqing nodded and said softly, "Heavenly Charms information came from the Divination Pavilion. As the most well-informed faction in the 9 zones, their information can't be false." The Divination Pavilion? Ning Tian fell silent. "Husband, if it was just the Righteous Tao Alliance, I wouldn't be afraid at all, but the Void God Heavenly Palace is much stronger than the Righteous Tao Alliance, so even I can't protect the Tianma cult. So, you took the disciples of the Heavenly Demon Horde." Smack. Before she could finish, Ning Tian rapped her on the forehead. Article 136 of the Tianma cult's rules. Heavenly demons, heavenly demons. How can you only care about yourself in this situation? Ning Tian's voice rang out. "Husband." Luo Wuqing froze. "Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earthweir. Only in desperate straits can one's potential be stimulated." A confident smile tugged at the corner of Ning Tian's mouth. He patted Luo Wuqing's shoulder and said, "Don't think so much. It's better not to live than to live. Trust me, all the disciples of the Tianma cult are determined to fight to the death." Seeing Ning Tian's confident smile, Luo Wuqing's wavering heart instantly became resolute. She nodded her head seriously. "Amen. I understand, husband." All right. Go do what you need to do." Ning Tian smiled, looking relaxed. "Amen." Luo Wuqing turned and left. After she left, the smile on Ning Tian's face instantly disappeared, replaced by an unprecedented solemnity. The Void God Heavenly Palace's foundation. Who knew how many great emperors there were? He'd never encountered such an opponent. However, he couldn't bring himself to flee with his disciples. How could such an old-fashioned story happen to him? He would either fight or die. It was very simple. Since the other party had come, he would directly kill them. Phew! He took a deep breath, then moved and flew toward the back mountain of the Tianma cult. Chapter 310. Back Mountain. The place with the densest spiritual energy. Ning Tian slowly descended. His expression was solemn as he slowly opened his palm. Soon, a small black pagoda appeared in front of him. Now, the only thing he could think of was the bloodthirsty demon in the Buddha Demon Pagoda. If he could rely on his power, there might be a chance for a turn of events. Phew! Ning Tian took a deep breath. Then, with a thought, he entered the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Inside the small black pagoda, a ray of light appeared. Looking at the dark space, Ning Tian did not hesitate at all. He turned around and walked toward the blood-colored barrier. The entire first floor of the Buddha Demon Pagoda gradually lit up as he walked. After a while, his figure paused, and in front of him, it was a stretch of crimson red, and it was difficult to move an inch. A red barrier appeared in front of him. Ning Tian looked at the red barrier indifferently. He did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Bloodthirsty demon, I need your power. What do you want? Tell me." Inside the barrier, there was a dead silence. After a long time, in the barrier, demonic energy shrouded it. A scarlet eye appeared in front of Ning Tian. The demonic voice also sounded at this moment. "Human, I am the bloodthirsty demon king, not the bloodthirsty demon you speak of." It first corrected Ning Tian's words, then continued. "Power? Why should I lend you my power?" There was a trace of disdain in the demonic voice. "Could it be that you don't want to leave this Buddha Demon Pagoda?" Ning Tian frowned slightly and asked coldly, "I haven't fully recovered my power. Why should I go out?" The bloodthirsty demon king sneered. The scarlet eye in the barrier was full of disdain. "Besides, it's a good thing for me to be able to see the heavenly god constitution of the human race die in the hands of the human race. Why should I help you?" Hee hee. When I think of those stupid humans killing the few heavenly god constitution of the human race, those from the other races must be laughing like crazy, right? Ha ha ha. The more the bloodthirsty Demon King thought about it, the more excited it became. The scarlet eye grew bigger and bigger. How do you know? Hearing the bloodthirsty Demon King's words, Ning Tian's expression changed. This old devil could actually hear what was going on outside. F***CK. Wait, didn't that mean he did it? As if he knew what Ning Tian was thinking, the bloodthirsty Demon King's disdainful voice sounded, "Don't think too much. This king has no interest in the affairs of your human race. It's just a dirty thing." Ning Tian heaved a sigh of relief. However, the power of the bloodthirsty Demon King could not be relied on. Human brat, live well. Kikik. The bloodthirsty Demon King laughed madly. Humph. Ning Tian harumphed coldly, his eyes cold as he said, "If I gain control of this pagoda, I will drag you out of the pagoda and seal you in a chamber pot. Don't worry, the disciples of our Tianma cult all have internal heat and yellow urine." Hearing this, the bloodthirsty Demon King fell silent. The sound of grinding teeth could be heard. "Hee brat, you'd better survive first." After saying that, the scarlet eyeball disappeared. It seemed that the bloodthirsty Demon King was destined not to make a deal. Ning Tian pondered for a moment, then finally sighed and turned to leave the pagoda. After coming out of the pagoda, Ning Tian put it away. Then, he moved and flew toward the Tianma cult. What he needed to do now was to announce this matter to the public. Perhaps, this matter would cause panic among some disciples, but he had to say it. Only by saying it now could the disciples and elders of the Tianma cult quickly enter the stage of preparation for war. If he did not say it, when the Righteous Alliance and the Void God Heavenly Palace attacked, they would only be in chaos and have no chance of winning. Half an hour later, all the disciples and elders of the Tianma cult gathered in the Tianma cult's main square. The gazes of tens of thousands of people of the Tianma cult were all looking at the center of the square. There were two figures there, the Patriarch and the Empress. They were the pillars of the Tianma cult's faith. To the side, the Grand Elder looked at Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing in confusion. "Patriarch, Her Excellency the Empress, why have you gathered all the disciples?" Just now, when the Patriarch said he wanted to gather all the disciples, he went. Now that he thought about it, the Patriarch's expression just now was very grave. At a glance, he could tell that it was no small matter. All the disciples and elders of the Tianma cult stared at Ning Tian. Ning Tian was in no hurry to speak. His gaze slowly swept over all the disciples and elders. Everyone could feel that the Patriarch was completely different from his usual self. He had become more serious and dignified. At this moment, they couldn't help but become nervous. At this time, Ning Tian slowly opened his mouth. His voice was very solemn. "Everyone, if someone wants to destroy the Tianma cult, will you agree?" "We won't." The disciples below quickly answered. Soon, Ning Tian's voice rang out again. "But what if the other party is stronger than us?" For a moment, the disciples didn't know how to answer. "Kill them all the same." At this time, just when everyone was silent, a loud shout rang out. Everyone looked over. Lin Hao's face was flushed red with agitation. He roared, "Live as heavenly demons, die as heavenly demons. It doesn't matter if they're strong or not. Those who offend us heavenly demons will be killed no matter how far away they are. Kill them all the same." "That's right. Kill them all the same. Kill them all." We, the disciples of the Tianma cult, are willing to die in battle. We don't want to live in disgrace. Soon, the heavenly demon disciples under the Patriarch's command reacted. They were all agitated and shouted together. More and more disciples were ignited with the flames in their hearts, their eyes bursting with fighting spirit. They could either die with a bang or live in disgrace, and it was obvious that they chose the former. Seeing this, Ning Tian showed a satisfied smile. Behind him, Luo Wuqing and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. "However, I also want you to live and die with the Tianma cult. Everyone has the right to live. Those who take a step forward, I'll personally send you away from the Tianma cult. Live well." Ning Tian spoke slowly, looking at the crowd. However, a minute passed. Tens of thousands of people in the square didn't take a step forward. Seeing this, Ning Tian showed a gratified smile at the corner of his mouth. His gaze fell on the crowd. Those who offend the Tianma cult, kill them all. Those who offend the Tianma cult, kill them all. Kill them all. In the square, the impassioned voices of the Tianma cult members kept ringing out. Seeing this, Luo Wuqing breathed a sigh of relief. She looked at Ning Tian with some surprise. She didn't expect her husband to consolidate the hearts of the crowd with just a few words. Everyone was afraid of death. Even if she was the leader of the Tianma cult, she couldn't guarantee that the disciples of the cult weren't afraid of death. However, Ning Tian was able to make them truly fearless of death. Perhaps this was the result of the patriarch's long-term influence. You've shocked Luo Wuqing. You've received a reward. At this time, the system's voice appeared in Ning Tian's mind. Chapter 311. The system's voice sounded in his mind. You've shocked Luo Wuqing. Reward. Upgrade in a spurt of energy card. Use this card to temporarily upgrade the strength of all Tianma cult disciples within 10,000 meters to the Holy Emperor realm for 1 day. Invalid after use. Upgrade in a spurt of energy card? Upgrade the strength of all Tianma cult disciples to the Holy Emperor realm in 1 day? Hearing the system's voice in his mind, Ning Tian's eyes lit up. Although this wouldn't have much effect on the overall situation, it could reduce the casualties of the Tianma cult disciples to the greatest extent, so that a large number of them wouldn't die at once. The real chance of victory was still in his hands. Phew! Ning Tian let out a long sigh of relief. No matter what, at least this was good news. Husband, what's wrong? Seeing Ning Tian standing silently to the side, Luo Wuqing couldn't help but frown slightly and look over with concern. In that very moment, the gazes of tens of thousands of sky demon cultists fell upon Ning Tian. There was nervousness in their eyes, some were at a loss, but most of them were fanaticism. Ning Tian also felt a huge pressure at this moment. These disciples and elders had completely handed their lives over to him. Phew! Ning Tian let out a long sigh of relief again, and his eyes gradually became resolute. At this moment, he put away all his cheeky smiles and replaced them with an unparalleled seriousness. Everyone, now I'll tell you about the enemy we're going to face. Ning Tian scanned the crowd and then spoke slowly. After a while, the Tianma cult was silent. The big square was extremely quiet at this moment. Everyone's expression was solemn, and their auras were awe-inspiring. Their faces were somewhat grave. The firmament territory. In the strongest territory of the 9 territories, the top 3 human forces were actually helping the Righteous Alliance. These disciples and elders were puzzled. However, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing understood in their hearts. The Righteous Alliance was only after the qualification to enter the ancient road to godhood. Bah, that old bastard Jing Tian is really shameless. If he can't beat him, he'll call for help. He doesn't care about martial ethics at all. At that moment, Lin Hao spat out viciously. Roar! The ceiling flame Lion King roared. Brother Shabi, do you think so too? Lin Hao asked. Roar! The Lion King nodded vigorously. Hee hee. Lin Hao chuckled and leaned on the ceiling flame Lion King's leg. The man and beast cursed Righteous Heaven Emperor. I curse Heavenly Emperor just sky to have no children. Roar! Righteous Heaven Emperor is truly an idiot. Roar! Cough cough that Brother Shabi. I'm not talking about you. Seeing this, the Tianma cult members in the square didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The tension in their hearts instantly dissipated. These 2 clowns. The corners of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly as she smiled and shook her head. Husband. Luo Wuqing walked over gracefully. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid it wouldn't be so easy now. Hearing this, Ning Tian smiled and gently hugged her. At that moment, everyone's eyes fell on the 2 of them. They were dazzling as if they were a match made in heaven. After a while, Ning Tian let go of her. Then, he looked at the Tianma cult members and said slowly, from now on, the Tianma cult will enter a state of preparation for war. Yes. The Tianma cult members shouted in unison with solemn expressions, Lin Hao, Elder Duan. At that moment, Ning Tian looked at the two of them and spoke again. Ancestral Master, we're here. Lin Hao and a white-haired elder walked over. Elder Duan was the master of the smithing palace. You two, forge the iron elemental armor in the next 2 days. Make sure that all the disciples receive a set. Ning Tian looked at the two of them and said slowly. The iron elemental armor could greatly increase defense and attack. It was also very good for the Tianma cult's overall strength.
Yes.
Lin Hao and Elder Duan nodded solemnly.
Wait.
Just as the two of them were about to move, Ning Tian called out to them. The two of them were stunned and looked at Ning Tian in confusion. Ancestral Master, do you have anything else to say? Ning Tian did not answer. Instead, he said silently in his heart, System, use the talent skill, superlative craftsmanship. Using superlative craftsmanship, use successful. When the system's voice fell, Ning Tian began to use the superlative craftsmanship to construct the forging diagram of the spiritual weapon in his mind. After a while, a golden light flashed in his eyes as he looked at the two of them. You two, come over here. Lin Hao and Elder Duan did as they were told. Ning Tian reached out his hand. A ball of golden light appeared in his hand, and he gently tapped on the foreheads of the two of them. They instantly merged into it. This was the comprehension ball of light of the enlightenment and clarification skill, which contained the forging diagram of the spiritual weapon. Ancestral Master, this is? Lin Hao and Elder Duan sensed the forging diagram of the spiritual weapon spear in their minds. They could not help but be stunned for a moment as they looked at Ning Tian. This is the spiritual weapon that I developed that can work with the iron elemental armor. You two can forge it together. Yes. Lin Hao and Elder Duan were pleasantly surprised. The Ancestral Master was indeed a master of forging. He could actually develop a compatible spiritual weapon on the spot. After the two of them left, Ning Tian looked at the Grand Elder and said, Grand Elder, pluck all the spiritual herbs in the herb field and distribute them to all the disciples in batches. Yes, Ancestral Master. The Grand Elder nodded. That's it. You can all disperse. After arranging everything, Ning Tian rubbed his temples, feeling a little tired. He did not know when. The entire Tianma cult began to focus on him. A fragrant wind blew over. Luo Wuqing pressed Ning Tian's head against her chest and softly murmured, Husband, you've worked hard. Ning Tian only made a sound of acknowledgement. She buried her head in the soft ground and breathed in the scent that made her feel a little relaxed. Life or death. It would depend on 2 days later. 2 days later, many forces in the heavenly spirit region sensed a sense of crisis. Everyone was terrified. It was as if something big was about to happen. Everything was calm. It was as if a storm was coming. Middle State. Righteous Alliance. All the disciples and elders of the Righteous Alliance were gathered here. There were close to 100,000 people. Their eyes were blazing as they looked at the sky. There, Emperor Just Sky and the 13 Emperor Gods of the Righteous Alliance were floating in the sky. Ha ha ha. Emperor Just Sky looked up to the sky and laughed. His eyes were filled with excitement. After 2 days, the Void God Emperor finally came out of seclusion. The plan that he had been waiting for half a year could finally be realized. Ha 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 ha. From today onwards, the Tianma cult will no longer exist. Emperor Just Sky laughed wildly. Congratulations, Alliance Leader, for eliminating a great enemy. Daoist Tian Yun said respectfully. Congratulations, Alliance Leader. Congratulations, Alliance Leader. Below, countless disciples congratulated him. Emperor Jusky's lips curled up. He was extremely satisfied. Suddenly, he looked at the sky. Chapter 312. Boom, boom. Above the unreachable sky, a series of rumbling sounds resounded. A terrifying aura appeared. Even the members of the Righteous Alliance on the ground were affected by the shockwaves. Their bodies swayed unsteadily, and their eyes were filled with shock. What's going on? Is the sky going to collapse? At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the sky. Haha, it's here. Righteous Sky Emperor was overjoyed. Only he was able to stabilize himself under this kind of aura. Even the 13 God Emperor realm experts beside him couldn't remain calm. It's here. When the 13 Emperor gods heard this, they were stunned. Then, their eyes widened and their bodies trembled. Could it be the Void God Heavenly Palace? Boom, boom. At this moment, in the sky, continuous rumbling sounds could be heard. It was as if the sky was roaring furiously. Then, in the vast sky, the wind and clouds surged. A huge whirlpool appeared, followed by a terrifying aura. It's here. It's here. Emperor Righteous Heaven was excited. At the same time, the phenomenon in the sky above the Righteous Tao Alliance had alarmed all the forces in the Heavenly Spirit region. Heavenly Treasure Holy Land, Sword Defense Sect, Carefree Sacred Ground, Supreme Divine Nation, High Void Sect, and other top Emperor Realm forces in the Heavenly Spirit region were shocked. The leaders of the forces raised their heads and looked at the sky. That direction was where the Righteous Tao Alliance was. What were they trying to do? Everyone was shocked, and their hearts were filled with astonishment. The strength of this aura caused them to be extremely fearful in their hearts. At this moment, everyone understood. The Heavenly Spirit region that had been peaceful for hundreds of years was going to be destroyed today. This was a rainstorm that would make all the forces feel fearful. What was the Righteous Tao Alliance and Emperor Righteous Heaven trying to do? Righteous Tao Alliance. In the sky, the whirlpool had expanded to several thousand meters. Emperor Righteous Heaven jumped and arrived in front of the whirlpool. He laughed and said, "Congratulations, Brother Void God. You've succeeded." Boom. Whoosh. In the whirlpool, the wind howled. Soon, a voice was heard. "Haha, Brother Righteous Heaven. You've been waiting for a long time." A figure stepped out of the whirlpool. This man had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and he exuded an imposing aura without being angry. He was the Empty God Realm Emperor. Even Zhengtian, a Nine Tribulations Great Emperor, felt a little solemn when he sensed the Empty God Emperor's aura. Such an imposing aura. As expected, he was completely different from ordinary Nine Tribulations Great Emperors. Was this the false God realm that the Void God Emperor mentioned? Brother Void God, are you alone? Emperor Zhengtian looked at Emperor Sushan and then looked behind him. There was no one there. He could not help but frown and ask. In the Tianma cult, that shameless patriarch and the empress were both Nine Tribulations Great Emperors. Of course not. The Void God Emperor chuckled. This time, I've brought many of my Void God Heavenly Palace's trump cards. In order to obtain the qualifications to enter the Heavenly Tao, he was willing to risk everything. Foundation. Hearing this, Emperor Zhengtian's eyes lit up. His eyes were filled with excitement. "All of you, come out," the Empty God Emperor said faintly. Boom. Then, the vortex in the sky shook again. Within the vortex, a few more figures emerged from the void. Void emergence. There. Great emperors. So many great emperors. Seeing the figures in the sky, everyone from the Righteous Alliance narrowed their eyes. Their hearts raced and their eyes were filled with awe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. 9 great emperors. Hiss. Is this the foundation of the top 3 human forces in the firmament territory? When the 13 God Emperors from the Righteous Tao Alliance saw this scene, their eyes widened as they sucked in a breath of cold air. 1 9 Tribulations Great Emperor, 4 8 Tribulations Great Emperors, and 4 7 Tribulations Great Emperors. When Heavenly Emperor Zhengtian saw this, the corner of his mouth twitched. He still remembered what the Empty God Emperor had said. This was only part of the Void God Heavenly Palace's foundation. This meant that the Void God Heavenly Palace had not used their true trump card yet. No wonder the spiritual realm is the largest among the 9 regions. Emperor Zhengtian could not help but sigh inwardly. Brother Zhengtian, this is all the Void God Heavenly Palace can provide. If it's too much, those annoying fellows will appear, the Empty God Emperor said slowly to Emperor Zhengtian. Yes, that's enough. Emperor Zhengtian nodded. He naturally knew what the Empty God Emperor meant by those annoying fellows. When do we leave? Void God Emperor looked at Righteous Sky Emperor and asked, "Soon." Emperor Zhengtian's lips curled into a sinister smile. He already had a plan in his mind. At this moment, his ambition was not only to destroy the Tianma cult, but to rule the entire heavenly spirit realm. Soon, a voice with the might of a great emperor rang out from the Righteous Alliance of Central State. With vigorous spiritual qi, it resounded throughout the entire heavenly spirit realm. "I'm Emperor Zhengtian. From today on, the heavenly spirit realm will be ruled by the Righteous Alliance. Everyone must submit to us. Those who refuse to submit will die." Boom. At this moment, everyone heard this oppressive voice. While they were still in a daze, several terrifying auras appeared from the Righteous Alliance's direction and swept over. Those were the auras of great emperors. The Righteous Alliance had many great emperors. At this moment, the entire heavenly spirit realm panicked. Many top experts were shocked. When did the Righteous Alliance become so powerful? For a moment, everyone in the heavenly spirit realm was terrified. As the wind and clouds surged, the various major forces also began to panic. They secretly made up their minds and chose the path they wanted to take. Unfettered sacred ground. Damn it! When did the Righteous Alliance have such a strong foundation? Sacred Leader Unfettered was only a first tribulation great emperor. When he felt this terrifying aura, he was already terrified. Sacred Leader, what should we do? In the main hall, everyone in the unfettered sacred ground was terrified. What else can we do? Sacred Leader Unfettered sighed. His eyes shone brightly. We can only obey. The Righteous Alliance only wants to destroy the Tianma cult. If we obey, we might have a chance to live. Yes. At the same time, Heavenly Treasure Holy Land, Great Compassion Palace, High Heaven Sect, and other forces seem to have made up their minds as they looked in the same direction. The Righteous Tao Alliance had always called themselves the Righteous Tao, and no one had ever acknowledged their actions. Once they submitted to the Righteous Tao Emperor, they would only face endless exploitation. However, if they wanted to resist, they could only rely on themselves. It was far from enough. But perhaps, if that man could lead them to a chance of survival. In the Divine Kingdom, all the ministers and generals were debating. Chapter 313. In the main hall, the king of the divine nation sat at the top of the hall, while the mother of the divine nation sat beside him. Below them was a group of princes, princesses, ministers, and generals. However, they did not remain silent. Instead, they continued to argue. In my opinion, we should submit to the alliance of righteous ways. If we endure hardships, we might still have a chance to turn things around. If we fight the alliance of righteous ways head-on, we'll be courting death. I think what Minister Liu said makes sense. Right now, the alliance of righteous ways is at its peak. It's still difficult for our divine nation to resist them. Sigh. How did the alliance of righteous ways suddenly become so powerful? The aura of dozens of great emperors is too terrifying. Yeah, many sighs could be heard in the main hall. However, when has our divine nation ever submitted to others? At this moment, just as everyone was discussing, another voice sounded. When everyone heard this, they looked at each other. Yes, when had their divine nation ever submitted to others? That was a disgrace. However, if they did not submit, what awaited them was only destruction. The aura of dozens of great emperors was unstoppable in the entire Tianling realm. For a time, the main hall was filled with discussions. Quiet, everyone quiet. The king of the divine nation sitting at the top of the hall finally spoke slowly. His tone was heavy, and his brows were tightly furrowed. He was full of dignity. King, what should we do now? All the princes, princesses, ministers, and generals looked at him. The king of the divine nation only responded with silence. At this moment, a woman's voice sounded in the main hall. Father, I have an idea. Perhaps it can save our divine nation from this disaster. Whoosh! Everyone's gazes turned to look at him. It's Princess Moon Spirit. Could it be that Princess Moon Spirit really has an idea? At this moment, everyone was puzzled. Oh, Moon Spirit, what idea do you have? The king of the divine nation narrowed his eyes and looked at his 30th daughter. Princess Moon's spirit stood out from the crowd. Even though everyone's eyes were on her, she was not nervous at all. The corners of her mouth curled into a confident smile. She nodded slightly and said softly, "Yes, father." "The idea is," she spoke slowly. Everyone looked over. "Cooperate with the Tianma cult." As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone in the hall changed drastically. "What? Working with the Tianma cult?" Princess Moon's spirit, the Tianma cult is the target of the Righteous Alliance. If our supreme divine nations were to participate, wouldn't we also be annihilated? No, no, no. The expressions of the group of ministers changed drastically, and their eyes were filled with deep panic. "Ministers, have you forgotten the strength of the legendary founder of the Tianma cult?" The Moon Spirit Princess smiled coldly in the face of everyone's doubts. "Don't you all know why the patriarch of the Tianma cult is called a legend? Don't you think the miracles he brought about are few?" Hearing this, the hall instantly quieted down. That day, when the legendary Grandmaster taught them and explained their doubts, the shock he brought to them was still fresh in their minds. Seeing that the group of ministers had shut up, the Moon Spirit Princess looked at the Lord of the Divine Nation and said slowly, "Father, the Righteous Alliance is just a bunch of villains. Although the Tianma cult is a devil, they are at least open and above board. If we join the Righteous Alliance, what's the difference between our supreme divine nation being destroyed?" The Lord of the Divine Nation was silent for a long time, still not saying a word. At this moment, the Moon Spirit Princess spoke again. The supreme aura on her body circulated, and she said in a deep voice, "Father, I'd rather die in battle than live in disgrace. I'd rather die in battle than live in disgrace." Hearing this, the Lord of the Divine Nation finally had a trace of fluctuation, and a glimmer of light flowed in his eyes. At this moment, he suddenly came to a realization. The teachings of the royal family of the supreme divine nation. "I'd rather die in battle than live in disgrace." Ha 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 ha. Well said. I'd rather die in battle than live in disgrace. He couldn't stop laughing. Everyone looked at him in a daze. "All right, then, let's go all out. Our supreme divine nation is never afraid of death. It's better not to live than to live in disgrace." The Lord of the Divine Nation's eyes lit up as he looked at the people in the hall. "Then let's join the Tianma cult and fight the Righteous Alliance head-on. Perhaps the patriarch of the Tianma cult will give us a miracle." Yes, in just half a day, many factions in the Tianling region had made a choice. In the face of death, they chose the path of survival. The Righteous Alliance became even more powerful. There were also many people who chose to wait and see. Only a small number of people quietly headed in one direction. It was also at this moment, a piece of news spread throughout the entire Tianling region. The Righteous Alliance had finally declared war on the Tianma cult. At this moment, everyone was looking forward to it. Could the patriarch of the Tianma cult, who was known as the legend of the Tianma cult, still bring about a miracle today? Tianma cult. At this moment, the atmosphere in the entire cult was heavy. They had also heard that voice clearly. The Righteous Alliance was finally attacking. In the sky, Ning Tian floated in the air. He looked at everyone with a serious expression and said slowly, "Everyone, put on your iron elemental armor and take your spears. We are ready to fight." Yes, yes, Patriarch. Everyone in the Tianma cult looked solemn. They circulated their spirit energy, put on their iron elemental armor, and picked up their spirit spears. Soon, they would face a terrifying enemy. Phew! Ning Tian let out a long sigh of relief. A fragrant wind blew beside him. He looked over and asked, "Honey, is there any movement from the Righteous Alliance?" "Yes, they're coming." Luo Wuqing nodded. At this moment, she was wearing a blue dress. Her face was expressionless, and her eyes were full of coldness. "Yes, get ready to fight." Ning Tian nodded solemnly. Boom! At this moment, a rumble came from the sky. The expressions of everyone in the Tianma cult changed. Then, they circulated their spirit energy and stared at the sky. "Are the people from the Righteous Alliance here?" In the sky, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing looked over with a serious expression. Are they here? Ning Tian frowned slightly. Luo Wuqing shook her head and said coldly, I don't think so. Their aura is not right. Is there someone else? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and looked over. Soon, several auras appeared in the sky. A few familiar figures flew over. Patriarch, I'm here. A voice came from the sky. A fat man flew over. Although he was fat, he could fly. He was Zhu Yuanbua. Behind him, the Tianbao Sacred Master, Tianbao Taoist, and other experts from the Tianbao Holy Land flew over. What are you doing? Ning Tian was stunned and asked. Now that the Righteous Alliance is acting recklessly, we can only rely on you, Patriarch. The Tianbao Sacred Master smiled bitterly and said slowly. He was the only divine arch in the entire Tianbao Holy Land. If he joined the Righteous Alliance, the Tianbao Holy Land would be finished. Chapter 314. Join Ancestral Master? Hearing this, Ning Tian and the others were taken aback. Before they could say anything else, rumbling sounds appeared in the sky again. More and more people appeared in the sky. Ancestral Master, our High Heaven sect is here too. Ling Ao descended from the sky with a group of High Heaven sect experts behind him. Great Ancestor Tian Bei also rushed over with Yi Bei and the others. They only had one goal, which was to join the Tianma cult. Now, it was difficult for a single sect to resist the powerful Righteous Tao Alliance. Perhaps if they gathered together, they might have a chance. Ning Tian's eyes flashed as he slowly glanced at the experts of the three sects and said in a deep voice, Aren't you afraid of death? The Righteous Tao Alliance is different from the past. Behind them is the Void God Heavenly Palace of the Firmament Territory. Firmament Territory? Void God Heavenly Palace? Hearing this, the faces of the Heavenly Treasure Holy Land, High Heaven Sect, and Great Compassion Palace changed slightly. They had naturally heard of the Void God Heavenly Palace of the Firmament Territory, but they were very surprised to hear that the Righteous Tao Alliance was cooperating with the Void God Heavenly Palace. The Righteous Tao Alliance is too shameless. They actually invited a foreign force. Zhu Yuanbua was furious. If he could, he would steal the Righteous Tao Alliance's horse and let Yu Qin cook it. It's okay. However, the three sect masters looked at each other, their eyes full of determination. At worst, we'll die. Those hypocritical villains of the Righteous Tao Alliance dare to call themselves the Righteous Tao Alliance? Bah, it's as if someone admitted it. It's better to believe in Ancestral Master than submit to the Righteous Tao Alliance. What if there is a miracle? The experts of the three sects were furious. Okay. Seeing the determined looks of the experts of the three sects, Ning Tian nodded and said seriously, Since you trust me, I will give you a miracle if possible. And the experts of the three sects nodded heavily. At this moment, a phrase that had been widely circulated in the Tianma cult echoed in their minds. The Ancestral Master is forever God. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, a loud shout was heard in the sky. Then, a horse pulled a chariot. Everyone raised their heads. What the hell is this? Is this a supreme divine nation? This group of old-fashioned fellows actually came too? Surprise flashed through the Sky Vault's Sacred Lord's eyes. In his impression, the divine nation was extremely arrogant and old-fashioned. Who would have thought that he would also choose to join the Tianma cult? Boom. Very soon, the divine horse landed in the palanquin. Several people appeared. Divine Kingdom Master and Divine Kingdom Mother, I didn't expect both of your supreme divine kingdoms to come. High Heaven Sect Master Ling Beihan raised his brow and said, Ha ha ha. It's better not to live than to live. The Divine Nation Master laughed out loud. Immediately after, he looked at Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing with a solemn expression. Ancestral Master, Empress, the Supreme Divine Nation is willing to cooperate with the Tianma cult against the Righteous Alliance. Yes. Ning Tian nodded slightly. At this moment, Princess Moon's spirit walked over gracefully. Her eyes sparkled as she bowed slightly to Ning Tian. Moon's spirit greets the Patriarch. Princess Moon's spirit, long time no see. Ning Tian greeted her, but he didn't see Yu Qin beside Moon's spirit, so he guessed that she must have returned to the firmament territory. Everyone. Ning Tian looked at the crowd with a solemn expression and said slowly, "Whether we live or die, we'll decide it with a battle." Yes, ancestral master. The people of the Tianma cult, as well as the masters of the other four great forces, all nodded. Boom, boom. At this moment, a roar broke out in the sky. Dark clouds filled the sky, and the entire sky darkened. A huge aura shrouded the entire sky, constantly attacking the Tianma cult. They're here. Inside the Tianma cult, everyone's faces darkened, and their expressions became solemn. Ancestral Master, hundreds of thousands of Righteous Alliance disciples have already surrounded the mountain gate. At this moment, the Supreme Elder flew over from the side. His expression changed slightly as he spoke to Ning Tian in a serious tone. Hundreds of thousands of Righteous Alliance disciples. Everyone's heart was suddenly shocked. Don't worry, they're just cannon fodder. Let the disciples deal with them. Ning Tian waved his hand, and his tone was very casual. He looked at the sky. The top masters of the Righteous Alliance were the most important. Let the disciples deal with them? Hearing this, the surrounding people were stunned. The Tianma cult only had tens of thousands of disciples, while the Righteous Alliance had hundreds of thousands. This huge gap soon. Everyone saw a black mass of Righteous Alliance disciples surrounding the Tianma cult so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Waves of aura surged into the sky. Boom. At this moment, in the sky, a huge vortex appeared, and everyone in the Tianma cult looked up. Soon, two figures appeared from the vortex. Everyone had seen one of them before, and that was the Righteous Sky Emperor. Next to him stood a man with dashing eyebrows and bright eyes. The Emperor's aura that he inadvertently revealed made everyone's expression very solemn. This person must be the Nine Tribulations Emperor. However, for some reason, they vaguely felt that his aura was stronger than the Righteous Sky Emperor's. Void God Realm Emperor. Ning Tian looked at the sky, his eyes solemn as he murmured. Beside him, Luo Wuqing quietly took a step forward and stood in front of Ning Tian, blocking the waves of terrifying Emperor's aura. Everyone thought that Ning Tian was also a Nine Tribulations Emperor. However, only she knew that while everyone was in fear, the young man standing in front of everyone was only a heavenly venerable. However, the calmness that he displayed was something that even a great emperor could not compare to. Ha ha ha. In the sky, the Righteous Sky Emperor laughed loudly. He looked coldly at the Tianma cult below. I really didn't expect that there would be some stupid people who would choose to believe in a Tianma cult that is destined to perish. How laughable, how laughable. Hearing this, the expressions of the four major forces turned ugly. The Theocracy King even snorted coldly. What? The Tianma cult's famous empress and legendary patriarch have become mute? They can't even say a word? The Righteous Sky Emperor smirked as he looked at Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing. His eyes were full of pride. I can't be bothered to waste my breath on you, Ning Tian said indifferently. Beside him, Luo Wuqing directly unleashed the aura of a Nine Tribulations Emperor. Her attitude was even clearer. Ha ha ha. The Righteous Sky Emperor's eyes flashed. Then, 13 figures emerged from the vortex behind him. At this moment, the void rippled, and another 9 figures stepped out from the void. Suddenly, everyone's pupils shrank. Great Emperors. At this moment, dozens of auras appeared in the sky. 13 God Emperors from the Righteous Alliance. 3 of them were 9 Tribulations Great Emperors, 4 were 8 Tribulations Great Emperors, and 4 were 7 Tribulations Great Emperors. Chapter 3:15. Hiss. At this moment, the expressions of the people below changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with deep shock. At first, they thought that the Righteous Alliance only had a few great emperors, but who would have thought that these great emperors were all above the 7th tribulation? A total of 11 great emperor-level experts and 13 god emperor-level experts. This was enough to overthrow all the forces in the Tianling region. After all, The Tianling region was only the smallest of the 9 regions in the Tianxin region. How is this possible? The Void God Heavenly Palace actually went to this extent. Are they not afraid of the existence of those guys? Patriarch Great Sorrow gasped. His turbid eyes were filled with astonishment. It's over. It's over. Daoist Tianbao wanted to cry but had no tears. They would die no matter what. Suddenly, the 4 forces who had a glimmer of hope fell into despair. Facing 11 martial monarch realm experts, all of whom were martial monarchs with high calamities, the miracle they were expecting would never happen. In an instant, despair rose in their hearts. The light in their eyes had already disappeared. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. In the sky, Great Emperor Zhengtian laughed wildly as he looked at the people below with a ferocious expression. Are you desperate? Ha ha ha. Unfortunately, it's too late to regret. You should have thought about joining our Righteous Tao Alliance. However, it's too late. As soon as Great Emperor Zhengtian finished speaking, a cold killing intent instantly enveloped the surroundings. Silence. Dead silence. Surrounding the hearts of the people below. At this moment, a figure rushed into the sky, and a loud roar resounded in everyone's ears. Tianma cult disciples, I would rather die in battle than live in disgrace. Boom. At the same time, a beautiful figure landed beside him, and a terrifying Great Emperor's aura instantly swept the surroundings. In an instant, all the Tianma cult disciples felt their blood boil, and battle intent surged in their eyes. I would rather die in battle. I would rather die in disgrace. At this moment, the Tianma cult disciples' cries rang out continuously. Hearing the roar, the people of the 4 forces were somewhat moved. The despair in their eyes faded bit by bit, and the battle intent in their hearts was ignited bit by bit. Yuling's beautiful eyes looked at the sky and landed on Ning Tian's figure. Her red lips parted slightly, and her eyes were filled with determination. Father, it's better to not live than to live. Humph. Damn it. I've been fighting my whole life. Why would I be afraid of death? Hearing this, the king of the divine nation harumphed coldly. The aura of a 5 tribulations great emperor flowed out of his body. At the same time, the eyes of the masters of heavenly treasure Holy Land, High Heaven Sect, and Great Compassion Palace surged with fighting spirit as their auras quietly emerged. Either way, he would die. At the very least, they wanted to be able to choose their own method of death. Died in battle. Living forever is better than living an ignoble life. It's just a last-ditch struggle. Seeing this, the empty god emperor narrowed his eyes, crossed his arms, and watched coldly. You're courting death. Emperor Zhengtian snorted coldly as his eyes were filled with mockery. Then, he shouted loudly. All disciples and elders of the Righteous Tao Alliance, heed my command. Yes, hundreds of thousands of people shouted in unison, their voices deafening. Exterminating devil, show the might of the Righteous Tao. The voice that contained the emperor's aura spread out and resounded throughout the entire heavenly spirit region. Exterminating devil, show the might of the Righteous Tao. The voices continued to ring out. Everyone was killed. Kill them. As soon as Emperor Zhengtian's voice fell, hundreds of thousands of disciples surged forward with an earth-shattering momentum. Battle cries continued to ring out. Even the earth trembled. The mountains of the Tianma cult collapsed. At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with nervousness. F***CK. Everyone, don't be afraid. Charge. You won't lose out if you kill one, but you'll definitely make a profit if you kill 2. Lin Hao roared loudly. Hee, brother of the Tianma cult, this saint thinks so too. Zhu Yuanbo chuckled. 2 equally fat people erupted with boundless fighting spirit at this moment and took the lead to charge toward the black mass of the Righteous Tao Alliance's army. They were like fireflies in the dark night, small but full of courage. Disciples of the Tianma cult, charge with me. Lan Lingling's beautiful eyes flickered with a cold light. At this moment, she was wearing iron armor and holding a long spear. She looked very heroic. More and more Tianma cult disciples charged forward without fear of death. Tens of thousands of people against hundreds of thousands of people. In everyone's eyes, this kind of behavior was undoubtedly equivalent to seeking death. Ridiculous. Emperor Zhengtian laughed mockingly. However, at this moment, Ning Tian's lips curled into a cold smile. He said in his heart, "System, use the one-spurt upgrade card." Using one-spurt upgrade card. Use successful. The moment the system's voice fell, a wave of aura spread from Ning Tian's body and enveloped a radius of 10,000 meters. In an instant, all the Tianma cult disciples who charged forward suddenly realized that their abilities were constantly increasing at this moment. In the blink of an eye, all the Tianma cult disciples' abilities had reached the peak of the Holy Emperor stage. Boom! In an instant, their eyes were filled with shock. However, they quickly suppressed it. The most important thing now was to kill all the righteous Tao Alliance's disciples. Perhaps this was all because of their patriarch, their miracle. Very soon, the hundreds of thousands of troops from the righteous Tao Alliance were shocked to discover that the tens of thousands of Tianma cult disciples who were running toward them suddenly flew up one by one. Crap! Peak of the Holy Emperor stage. This is also a peak of the Holy Emperor stage. Crap. Damn, they are all peak of the Holy Emperor stage? All the disciples of this cult are peak of the Holy Emperor stage? Right then, the hundreds of thousands of troops from the righteous Tao Alliance were stunned. All of them were in a mess. What the hell? What the hell was going on? Zhu Yuanbua clearly saw that Lin Hao, who was running with him just now, was suddenly enveloped by golden light and flew into the sky. He was instantly dumbfounded. I am the unparalleled genius of the heavenly treasure sacred ground, but I am only an 8-star holy emperor. But now, every disciple of the Tianma cult is a peak of the holy emperor stage? Crap! Not only Zhu Yuanbua, but the powerful figures of the 4 major forces were also shocked. What the hell was going on? The strongest of these disciples just now was only at the Earth King stage, and the weaker ones might have just stepped into the martial path. But how did they all become peak of the Holy Emperor stage in the blink of an eye? Hiss, could it be that this has something to do with our patriarch? The powerful figures of the 4 major forces looked at Ning Tian, who was standing in the sky with his hands behind his back, in shock. Was this a miracle? At this moment, the extinguished flames in their eyes reignited. What's going on? In the sky, Emperor Zhengtian and the other powerful figures were all stunned. Emperor Zhengtian frowned deeply. This sect's disciples were all peak of the Holy Emperor stage. No matter which spirit realm they were in, this was a shocking existence. Everyone in the cult was a genius? How was this possible? Damn it, he must have used some tricks. Emperor Zhengtian's eyes flashed fiercely. Then, he raised his giant hand. Chapter 316. So what if they're geniuses? They're just ants at the peak of the Holy Emperor stage. The Emperor can destroy them with one palm. Emperor Zhengtian snorted coldly. His Emperor's aura circulated as he suddenly raised his hand. It turned into a giant hand and fell on the group of Tianma cult disciples below. How shameless! As a great emperor, you dare to attack some disciples. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression changed. Boom! The giant hand carried Emperor's aura and fell down heavily. At this moment, a burst of Emperor's aura attacked. A beautiful figure instantly flashed in front of the group of disciples. She raised her jade-like hand slightly and shook it gently. Boom! Bang! The giant hand shattered in an instant. Phew! The group of Tianma cult disciples breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Luo Wuqing in awe. Thank you, Empress, for saving us. It's fine. Just kill the righteous faction dogs. Luo Wuqing shook her head slightly and said indifferently. She looked coldly at Emperor Zhengtian and said coldly, Zhengtian, no matter what happens today, you will not leave the Tianma cult alive. Hearing this, Emperor Zhengtian's body trembled. His expression was slightly ugly, but he did not speak. At this moment, an aura appeared beside him. The empty god emperor appeared beside him. He looked at Luo Wuqing with a smile. You're the empress of the Tianma cult? You're indeed the strongest empress of the Tianling region. Seeing you today, it's true. Whether it's in terms of beauty or strength, you're worthy of being called a peerless beauty. Presumptuous. Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. Then, a terrifying emperor's aura attacked the empty god emperor. Emperor Zhengtian wanted to dodge. The empty god emperor waved his hand slightly and smiled confidently. Similarly, a wisp of emperor's aura appeared. Boom. In an instant, the sky exploded and the aura roared. You've come into contact with that realm? Luo Wuqing frowned slightly and looked coldly at the empty god emperor. At this moment, as long as he had the guidance to godhood, he could become a god on the spot. Ha ha ha, Empress, how about submitting to me? The void god emperor's eyes flashed with a hint of evil charm. Are you worthy? Luo Wuqing responded with a sneer. Her beautiful eyes gradually turned cold. Do you really think that you're the only demigod? What do you mean? You've also come into contact with that level? The empty god emperor looked over and his expression changed. How is this possible? Is it difficult to become a demigod? Don't forget, the emperor will become a great emperor in 100 years. Luo Wuqing's cold voice fell, and a holy aura accompanied by emperor pressure emerged from her tender body. As expected, the empty god emperor's pupils shrank as his eyes were filled with shock. This woman is actually so powerful. Great Emperor Juskai had an ugly expression. The empress of the Tianma cult was a peerless genius of the last several hundred years. To become a great emperor in a mere 100 years was enough to prove her talent. The empress can indeed become a great emperor as long as she obtains the guide to godhood. The expressions of the experts of the four sects improved. However, they didn't dare to lower their guard. There were still many great emperors, and the other side also had experts who surpassed the 9 tribulations great emperor. It seems like we can't let you live. The empty god emperor's eyes were filled with killing intent as he circulated his aura. The two looked at each other and rushed over. At the same time, a group of god emperors from the Righteous Alliance also rushed over to fight with the experts of the four sects. In an instant, the battle erupted. Terrifying emperor pressure exploded in the sky as spiritual energy surged. Ning Tian looked around with a solemn expression. Although the god emperors from the Righteous Alliance had attacked, none of the great emperors from the Void God, Heavenly Palace had attacked. No, where are they? At this moment, Ning Tian suddenly realized that the group of great emperors had disappeared. He hurriedly circulated his spiritual energy and became alert. Suddenly, he thought of something and his expression changed greatly. The goal of the empty god emperor and the others was to focus their attacks and injure one of them. Luo Wuqing was in danger. Wife, be careful. He suddenly let out a roar. At the same time, in the sky, Luo Wuqing had repelled 2 great emperors with one move. However, before she could breathe a sigh of relief, she suddenly sensed terrifying auras coming from all directions. Boom, boom. In an instant, the 9 tribulations great emperor rushed over, followed by the 8 tribulations and 7 tribulations great emperors. Shameless. Seeing this scene, the Tianma cult's members were enraged. The 11 great emperors attacked at the same time, including the demigod realm expert who was not weaker than Luo Wuqing. Even the empress couldn't resist. Boom. As the auras approached, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes were filled with seriousness. She moved her delicate body and blasted out several palms. Although she managed to shatter the waves of emperor pressure, she was also affected. She retreated a few hundred meters, and there was a trace of red at the corner of her mouth. Empress. Everyone's expression changed greatly. Continue to attack. The void god great emperor snorted coldly. In an instant, the 11 waves of emperor pressure gathered together and turned into a ray of light, falling toward Luo Wuqing. Boom. Waves of emperor pressure condensed here. It was unstoppable. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes were full of seriousness, but at this moment, she couldn't retreat. Behind her were tens of thousands of Tianma cult disciples. Empress, the experts of the four major forces all looked unsightly. With their strength, they could only deal with the divine emperors of the righteous alliance. They were not qualified to participate in the battle of the great emperors in the sky. Just by approaching, they would be restricted by the pressure. At this moment, everyone's expression was ugly, and a huge stone hung in their hearts. If the Empress fell, the entire battle, could the ancestral master alone reverse the situation? Boom! The ray of light was only a few hundred meters away from Luo Wuqing. In the face of this level of attack, even she had no confidence in her heart. Phew, husband, maybe it's up to you. She took a deep breath. Her eyes were full of determination. The attack that contained the power of 11 great emperors was getting closer and closer at this moment. 100 meters, 50 meters, 10 meters. Luo Wuqing's delicate body also erupted with terrifying emperor pressure. Just as her delicate body trembled slightly and was about to rush forward to fight, a figure emerged from the void in front of her, blocking in front of her. Soon, it was shrouded in golden light. Husband. Seeing this scene, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes were full of crimson color, and her beautiful face was instantly covered with frost. Zhangtian, virtual god. The emperor swears that if my husband makes the slightest mistake, even if the emperor's soul is scattered, today, you will die without a doubt. Her voice was cold, without the slightest emotion. She knew that Ningtian was only in the heavenly master realm. Hearing this, Zhangtian and virtual god emperor's expressions changed, but soon they snorted coldly. No matter what, the legendary ancestral master of the Tianma cult would die without a doubt. Ancestral master. The ancestral master rushed in. At this moment, everyone's eyes were looking at the sky worriedly. Above the sky, the golden light was dazzling, and there was no one in sight. Chapter 317. Ha ha ha. Don't get your hopes up. Emperor Zhangtian looked at the worried expressions of the people below and couldn't help but grin. His words instantly chilled everyone's hearts. Even if he's a demigod, he'll definitely die under the joint attack of 11 great emperors. Definitely die. Everyone's expressions were extremely ugly, and their eyes were filled with despair. Their ancestor, who had brought them miracles, was defeated in the end? For a moment, despair, sorrow, despair appeared in everyone's hearts. Suddenly, at this moment, a low voice sounded from within the golden light. Who said I'm dead? The voice sounded. Everyone was stunned for a long time. They suddenly reacted. The voice belonged to their ancestor. Our ancestor is not dead. Ha ha ha. I knew our ancestor wouldn't die like this. F***CK. Our ancestor is awesome. Our ancestor is a god forever. Everyone from the Tianma cult cried tears of joy and excitement. As long as their ancestor was not dead, he would bring them unimaginable miracles. The legendary ancestor of the Tianma cult is indeed worthy of his reputation. The experts from the four major forces could not help but shake their heads and sigh. Their eyes were filled with excitement. Husband, Luo Wuqing finally heaved a sigh of relief when she heard the familiar voice. Her delicate body was trembling at this moment. At this moment, she felt as if she had regained something she had lost. Impossible. How could the Tianma cult's ancestor not be dead? This is the joint attack of 11 great emperors. Even a demigod would definitely die. Emperor Zhangtian and the others' expressions changed drastically at this moment. Their hearts were in turmoil. Not dead? How could it be? Don't panic. Emperor Su Shun was the calmest among them. He frowned, and his expression was not good. Perhaps he's not dead, but he must be seriously injured and can't fight anymore. It's already a miracle that he's not dead under such an attack. Emperor Zhangtian and the others' expressions turned slightly better when they heard Emperor Su Shan's words. If he could not fight, then they would kill him again. Boom. The golden light in the sky slowly dissipated. A deep ravine that was hundreds of thousands of meters long appeared on the ground. There was no sign of life in the ravine. This was enough to prove how terrifying this move was. However, at this very moment, everyone's eyes were firmly fixed on the sky. As the golden light dissipated, a vague figure appeared. That was Ning Tian. That was the legendary founder of the Tianma cult. Hiss. When the crowd saw Ning Tian clearly, they were all shocked. Their pupils constricted as they were shocked beyond words. In the sky, when the golden light completely dissipated, Ning Tian looked as if nothing had happened. Even his clothes were undamaged. What serious injuries? What near death? None of that existed. The combined attacks of the 11 great emperors seemed to have vanished into thin air when they landed on him. Just this? Ning Tian touched her face. Her face had an invincible defense. That wasn't a joke. Let me remind you of something. The next time you attack, don't focus on one spot. Ning Tian looked at the dumbfounded righteous Sky Emperor and the others mockingly. After saying that, he slowly turned around. He looked at Luo Wuching behind him. Wife. He walked over and saw the trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Instantly, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. All of you have to die. Ning Tian gently wiped away the blood at the corner of her mouth. Then, he looked coldly at Emperor Zhengtian and the others. They must die. What? He's unharmed. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. At this very moment, Emperor Zhengtian and the rest of the 11 great emperors were in a daze. Their hearts were in turmoil. They could not be more shocked. Even Emperor Su Shun, who had been calm all this while, could not stop trembling. His heart was filled with shock. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How can he be unharmed? His lips turned pale as he kept mumbling, "Ha ha ha. Ancestral Master is awesome. He will always be a god." Zhu Yuanbo laughed loudly and shouted. This was the miracle they were all waiting for. Ancestral Master will always be a god. Ancestral Master will always be a god. At this moment, the voice of a god kept ringing. Vaguely, it seemed to resound throughout the entire Tianling region. It was also at this moment. The system's voice finally echoed in Ning Tian's mind. You have shocked Emperor Zhengtian. You have shocked Emperor Su Shan. You have shocked Emperor Su. You have shocked great ancestor Tian Bei. You have shocked. You have shocked hundreds of thousands of troops from the Righteous Alliance. You have shocked Tianma cult's disciples. Ning Tian's move shocked countless people. Everyone was shrouded in his shock. Reward. Divine Demon World Annihilation card. This time, the system did not introduce the reward too much. The voice finally fell in Ning Tian's mind. Use. Divine Demon World Annihilation card. However, Ning Tian did not hesitate and used it directly. Use. Divine Demon World Annihilation card. Use successful. Bang. At this moment, golden light flashed on Ning Tian's body. Infinite power surged in his body. His body began to enlarge at this moment. In the blink of an eye, his body was 10,000 feet tall, and there was a trace of divine aura circulating around him. At the same time, in the Buddha demon pagoda in his body, a huge wave of demonic aura surged into his body uncontrollably. Ah, what's going on? In the Buddha demon pagoda, bloodthirsty demon king was shocked. This was because his body was being decomposed by an unknown force, turning into demonic aura and surging in a direction. This aura. It's the aura of the heavenly god physique. It's that kid. At this moment, bloodthirsty demon king's eyes were filled with deep shock. He did not expect Ning Tian to have such power. Roar. Ning Tian, who had already turned 10,000 feet tall, let out an angry roar. At this moment, on his body, monstrous demonic aura and golden light appeared at the same time. His left eye turned black while his right eye shone with golden light. Divine demon in one body. It was enough to destroy the world. What's going on? Seeing Ning Tian, who had suddenly turned 10,000 feet tall, everyone was stunned at this moment. That monstrous demonic aura and dazzling golden light were enough to change anyone's expression. Chapter 318. As the golden light flickered, Ning Tian's body grew to a height of 10,000 feet. With the divine light protecting his body, he looked like a god descending to the world. However, the monstrous demonic chi that was faintly circulating around his body caused everyone to be extremely shocked. God and demon in one body, enough to destroy the world. This ancestral master became so big all of a sudden. Seeing this scene, Zhu Yuanbao stuttered as he stared at Ning Tian, who was shaking the heavens with her body. This is ancestral master's true strength? The Sky Vault's sacred lord swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his eyes full of shock. Oh my god. Luckily, ancestral master didn't use this move in my divine land city. Otherwise, my divine nation would have been destroyed long ago. The divine nation lord rejoiced in his heart. Could it be that ancestral master broke through to the immortal state directly? Ling Beihan raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion. No, it's impossible to reach the immortal state without going through the ancient road to godhood. This is a rule that has been passed down since ancient times in the profound sky continent. Ancestral Master Tianbei shook his head and said with certainty, although the current ancestral master had a heaven-defying appearance, he was not at the immortal state yet. Then, what realm is ancestral master at now? Hearing this, the group of experts swallowed their saliva and looked up at the towering figure not far away. Next, this was the miracle that the ancestral master had brought them. Husband, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes fell on Ning Tian. She could sense that Ning Tian's aura was still at the heavenly venerate state. However, the power of his body was comparable to a true immortal state expert. The power of the heavenly god body, and Luo Wuqing narrowed her beautiful eyes and murmured, "This is the demonic aura power of the Buddha Demon Tower? God and demon in one body. Brother empty god. What's going on?" Emperor Righteous Heaven's expression was extremely ugly, and fear emerged in his heart at this moment. "I don't know." Emperor Void God shook his head solemnly and said in a deep voice, "Don't be afraid. We are all great Emperor-level experts. So what if he becomes 10,000 feet tall? It's just a little bigger. It's impossible for its strength to reach the deity realm. As long as he doesn't reach the divine realm, then we still have a chance of winning." Yes. The other 10 great emperors nodded their heads in agreement. Boom. In the sky, the auras of 11 great emperors burst forth and charged towards Ning Tian. Seeing this, Luo Wuqing was about to make a move. However, at this moment, Ning Tian's voice boomed like thunder in the sky. "Honey, you're injured. Just watch. I'll deal with these guys." "All right." Luo Wuqing froze for a moment, then nodded. She was indeed injured. After forcefully withstanding that attack, the aura within his body had become a bit chaotic. Since Ning Tian said this, it meant that he could do it. Her husband had never been a boastful person. Ridiculous. You dare to deal with all of us at the same time? Unbridled strength. Hearing this, the 11 great emperor-level experts all laughed angrily. As great emperors, wherever they went, they would be respected and revered by tens of thousands of people. However, now, the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult dared to say that he wanted to deal with the 11 of them alone. This was simply looking down on them. In an instant, dozens of great emperors' auras gathered at the same time. They turned into 10,000 feet of golden light and charged towards Ning Tian. Seeing this, in the sky, there seemed to be a sneer. Then, a flame appeared in the hand of Ning Tian, who had already turned 10,000 feet tall, and a huge flaming sword appeared in his hand. This is an immortal artifact? No. How could there be such a huge, immortal artifact? Seeing this, Zhang Tian and the others' expressions changed drastically. Boom. As soon as the red cloud sword appeared, the whole world turned fiery red. It was as if the sky had been ignited. The red cloud sword was an emperor's sword. The stronger Ning Tian was, the stronger it would be. Boom. Ning Tian, who had turned 10,000 feet tall, swung his sword. In an instant, the red cloud sword's body was filled with endless flames, and a sword light that was 10,000 feet long appeared. In an instant, dozens of great emperor's auras were instantly shattered like thin paper. What? How is this possible? Seeing this scene, the 11 great emperor-level experts' expressions changed drastically, shattered in an instant. Was their emperor's might a joke? You have once again shocked the 11 great emperors. The strength of the celestial demon body has increased again. At the same time, the system's voice sounded again. In Ning Tian's body, the golden demonic aura flourished again. To be honest, you guys are very strong. Ning Tian's voice sounded from the sky, exploding in the ears of the 11 great emperor-level experts. However, I'm sorry to say that I'm stronger than you guys now. As soon as his voice fell, the red cloud sword appeared in Ning Tian's hand again. Sword Dao. Instant slash. With a 10,000 feet tall body, he activated the Sword Dao martial arts. This kind of power seemed to be tearing the sky apart. Boom. In the blink of an eye, a fiery sword light appeared. It instantly slashed toward the 11 great emperor-level experts. Boom. Be careful. The empty god emperor shouted, and then activated his demigod aura to defend against this move. The great emperors beside him did not dare to let down their guard. They all activated their emperor auras with solemn expressions. Empty god tremble. The empty god emperor shouted and spiritual energy appeared in his hand. Behind him, an illusory figure appeared. It forcefully blocked the flaming sword ray. You're overestimating yourself. Ning Tian's eyes were cold as he slashed out 2 more sword rays. Boom. The illusionary figure behind the martial monarch was instantly shattered as his figure was sent flying. Poof. How is this possible? The empty god emperor's eyes flashed with shock. He was a demigod expert. How could he be in such a sorry state? Boom. At the same time, the flaming sword ray instantly slashed down. In the sky, the 4-7 tribulation great emperors fell from the sky like sparrows with broken wings. Humph! A cold snort was heard. Ning Tian flipped his hand, and a small black tower appeared. The demonic aura in his body surged, and the pagoda spirit let out a buzzing sound. Next, the originally small pagoda spirit instantly enlarged. In the blink of an eye, demonic aura surged from the pagoda spirit. Ning Tian's palm shook. Next, the huge pagoda spirit fell to the ground and instantly suppressed the 4-7 tribulation great emperors under the pagoda spirit. Boom, boom. When the pagoda spirit landed on the ground, the entire ground trembled. On the ground, all the disciples and elders of the righteous Tao Alliance vomited blood and were instantly sent flying. Palace Master, save us. Soon, the 4-7 tribulation great emperors who were suppressed under the pagoda spirit let out a series of screams. The empty god emperor's expression changed, but he did not move. The black tower that was hundreds of meters tall gave him an indescribable sense of fear. If he rushed up recklessly, he was afraid that he would be suppressed under it. Under the pagoda spirit, the screams stopped. Chapter 319. Soon, the 4-7 tribulation great emperors suppressed under the Buddha demon pagoda were refined into a thick demonic aura. Then, under everyone's horrified gaze, it rushed toward Ning Tian. Phew! Ning Tian opened his mouth and swallowed the thick demonic aura. At the same time, his body shook violently again. The monstrous demonic aura in his left eye seemed to have turned into a bottomless black hole. It was extremely terrifying. Divine demon fusion has reached the strongest state. When the system's voice fell, Ning Tian's lips curled slightly, and a trace of evil flashed in his eyes. Since it had reached the strongest state, then, let's kill. In the next moment, red cloud in Ning Tian's hand turned into a ball of flame and dissipated. He clenched his fist and turned into a golden light. He punched out. Bang! Golden light fist shadow. Bang bang. In just an instant, a figure in the sky was directly beaten into a cloud of blood mist. What? Who exploded? Below, the people of the Tianma cult and the four sects were stunned when they saw this scene and looked over. All of this happened too suddenly. This punch seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Even the great emperors could not react in time. The void god great emperor's expression suddenly changed, and he looked over. In an instant, his eyes were about to burst open. Elder Lu, the one who was beaten into a cloud of blood mist by Ning Tian, was another Nine Tribulation Great Emperor. He blew up a Nine Tribulation Great Emperor with one punch. Everyone. The other Great Emperors. Everyone was stunned on the spot. Their eyes were dull, as if they had lost their ability to think. How was this possible? Weren't Nine Tribulation Great Emperors invincible under the immortal state? Why were they so weak in the hands of the Tianma cult's patriarch? At this moment, everyone in the Righteous Alliance was shocked. The experts of the Tianma cult and the four sects were extremely excited. Ha 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 ha. F***ck. He blew up a Nine Tribulation Great Emperor with one punch. How satisfying. I knew it. The patriarch is the miracle we've been waiting for. Haha. Grandmaster is awesome. Grandmaster is forever a god. Excited voices rang out one after another. They finally saw the dawn of victory shining in front of their eyes. A miracle will appear in the end. The originally arrogant Righteous Alliance army was now like deflated balloons. Unknowingly, their situation had switched with that of the Tianma cult disciples. It was their turn to despair. Boom. Ning Tian retracted his golden palm. In the blink of an eye, a huge hand filled with demonic qi grabbed hold of the blood mist. Very quickly, the demonic qi corroded the blood mist, turning it into nourishment for the demonic qi and absorbed it into his body. The blood of a great emperor is indeed wonderful. Ning Tian mumbled as his left eye emitted a black glow. Hiss. Upon seeing this, the empty god realm martial monarch shuddered violently. Elder Lu, who was a Nine Tribulations martial monarch, had been completely absorbed by Ning Tian's demonic qi. Are you from the human race or the demon race? The empty god realm martial monarch swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. At this moment, his body trembled uncontrollably as he expressed extreme fear. Human race? Demon race? Ning Tian sneered as if he found these words uninteresting. He activated his palm dao and blasted out a palm. His indifferent voice rang out. Heh, I am the heavens. Ning Tian's voice rang out coldly. A cold glow flashed in his hand. This time, he was using a heaven-class martial art, extreme cold shattering palm. Boom. The moment his voice fell, a cold glow flashed as his palm landed. Under this palm, several great emperors hurriedly fled in all directions. What a joke. Ning Tian's previous punch had directly destroyed Elder Lu, who was a Nine Tribulations martial monarch. The power of this palm was even more shocking. If they did not run now, were they waiting to be destroyed? Damn it! How could this be? The righteous heaven martial monarch was unwilling to admit defeat, but he was the fastest to escape. He could not figure it out no matter how hard he tried. This was completely different from what he had imagined. Wasn't it supposed to be easy to destroy the Tianma cult with 11 great emperors? But why? Why did it become like this? It's over, it's over. Heaven's reincarnation. Who will be spared? It's our Righteous Alliance's turn now. Seeing this scene, everyone from the Righteous Alliance began to despair. What did it mean to turn the tide? The appearance of the Tianma cult's ancestral master was to turn the tide. He had single-handedly changed the predestined situation. Ha ha ha. Kill them. Kill all these lackeys of the Righteous Alliance. Lin Hao shouted loudly. With the ancestral master taking the lead, the Tianma cult's disciples' morale soared. It directly formed a crushing momentum. Tens of thousands of people, who had already increased their strength, chased after the hundreds of thousands of Righteous Alliance's troops. Boom. At this very moment, a cold palm landed on the 4-8 Tribulation's great emperors. Their bodies were being frozen at a speed visible to the naked eye, and their eyes were full of despair. No matter how they exerted their full strength and used their spirit chi and emperor's aura, They couldn't do anything to the frost at all. Boom. Soon, their bodies turned into ice. They were frozen in despair and fell heavily to the ground. Then, a gigantic figure appeared, and a foot stomped down heavily, instantly crushing them to pieces. In just a few minutes, a 9 tribulations great emperor, 4 8 tribulations great emperors, and 4 7 tribulations great emperors had all fallen, and they didn't even have the ability to fight back. Humph. Trying to escape? Ning Tian snorted coldly, and his eyes shot out. He looked at the righteous sky great emperor and void god great emperor, who directly opened the void door in the distance, trying to escape through the void. He immediately raised his hand. I, Ning Tian, ordered you to die at midnight. Who dares to keep you alive until midnight? An indifferent voice sounded. In his heart, a voice sounded again. System, use 10,000 levels of faith power. Using 10,000 levels of faith power. Use successful. The system's voice sounded. In the blink of an eye, his aura was like a rainbow. A ray of golden light appeared in Ning Tian's hand, and then it appeared at the same time as demonic chi. He blasted a palm into the unknown void. In the void, 2 figures in a sorry state entered it. They were Righteous Sky Great Emperor and Void God Great Emperor. Damn it! Why is this Tianma cult's patriarch so strong? He's too strong. He's simply inhuman. Righteous Sky Great Emperor's eyes were filled with horror, and his expression was extremely ugly. From this moment on, his Righteous Tao alliance was completely finished. On the side, Void God Great Emperor was also ugly, but he remained silent. Boom. At this moment, a ray of golden light appeared behind them. What? The 2 men's expressions changed drastically. Even if they escaped into the void, the Tianma cult's patriarch's attack followed closely. Damn it, we can't escape. For the first time, Righteous Sky Great Emperor felt the fear of death. Void God Great Emperor's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Then, he blasted a palm on Righteous Sky Great Emperor's body and smiled viciously. Brother Righteous Sky, I'm sorry, but I'll avenge you. So, I'll use your life in exchange for mine. Chapter 320. The empty god's palm landed heavily on the defenseless Emperor Zhengtian. In an instant, his body flew out and charged directly into the golden light that filled the sky. You're better off dead than me. Zhengtian, I'll take my leave. The empty god emperor used this power and instantly shot out tens of thousands of meters away. F***ck, empty god, you'll die a horrible death. Emperor Zhengtian did not expect that his partner would launch a sneak attack at this moment. His face turned pale and he cursed. However, no matter how much he cursed, what greeted him was the world-destroying golden light of faith power of 10,000th rank. Boom. In an instant, that dazzling golden light shrouded his body. Waves of screams could be heard. His body was being disintegrated by the golden light. Even if he used his great emperor's power, it was useless. In the sky, Ning Tian frowned slightly. At this moment, a golden light flashed across his eyes as he looked not far away. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate the clouds. Very soon, he saw it. Hundreds of thousands of meters away, a figure in a sorry state shot out at an extremely fast speed. It was the empty god emperor. Running? The corners of Ning Tian's mouth curled into a sneer. Next, the scarlet heaven sword appeared in his hand once more. He raised the red cloud sword and the flames in the sky followed him. Everyone's gaze fell on him. What is the ancestral master doing? The experts of the 4 sects and the people of the Tianma cult were puzzled. Very soon, when Ning Tian swung his sword, their pupils instantly constricted while the bewilderment in their hearts vanished without a trace. F***ck. So powerful. Hiss. They saw Ning Tian swinging his sword. Under the effect of the demonic aura and spiritual energy, the sword light expanded from hundreds of meters to tens of thousands of meters, and then to hundreds of thousands of meters. Such a long sword. Everyone widened their eyes. Sky-piercing sword. Ning Tian shouted, and then slashed down with his sword. Boom, boom. The sword light that was hundreds of thousands of meters long appeared in the sky of the western continent and seemed to illuminate the entire heavenly spirit realm. At this moment, the forces of the heavenly spirit domain who were still watching suddenly saw this sword, and their expressions changed drastically. Tianma cult. Golden giant. That's a legendary ancestor. The Tianma cult actually defeated the Righteous Alliance's attack? Hiss. How is this possible? At this moment, everyone in the heavenly spirit realm saw the flaming sword light that rose hundreds of thousands of meters from the west continent. Their expressions were grave, and gasps could be heard everywhere. No one had expected this. The Tianma cult was actually able to counterattack in a desperate situation. Could it be? Was the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult really so heaven-defying? In the void god emperors ran for their lives. At this moment, he didn't have any thoughts of revenge in his heart. He only thought that if he could escape from the heavenly spirit domain, he would never set foot in this place again. A legendary ancestor was not in existence that he could provoke. Boom. At this moment, a wisp of crimson appeared in his eyes. That was a ball of flame. That was a sword light that took his life. Damn it. I've run hundreds of thousands of meters. Still won't let me go. The void god emperor's eyes were red, and he gritted his teeth. He couldn't die here. Absolutely not. Blood essence, wood essence, soul, return to life. The void god emperor spat out blood as he cast the spell, but he couldn't care less. If he wanted to live, he had to sacrifice something. Soul, soul destruction, protect me. Finally, after spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, the void god emperor finished casting. It was also at this moment, the flaming sword light that was hundreds of thousands of meters long finally landed on his body. At this moment, a strange energy surged out and shrouded the void god emperor's body. Soon, his entire body disappeared in the flaming sword light. A cold sword light illuminated the sky. Countless people in the heavenly spirit domain raised their heads and looked at the place where the sword light landed. Countless people's hearts were filled with deep shock. This sword light, it was enough to become a god. Boom, boom, boom. Where the sword light landed, the earth was torn apart, the mountains were shattered, and the rivers were cut off. Wah! A bloodied man appeared in the void. It was the void god emperor. At this moment, he was in a sorry state. His body was covered with hideous wounds, and the lower half of his body had disappeared. A legendary ancestral master is too strong. The heavenly spirit domain is too terrifying. Even if I die in the future, I won't take half a step into the heavenly spirit domain. The moment his voice fell, he rushed into the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the void god emperor didn't have any thoughts of revenge in his heart. This was because he knew in his heart. Revenge? Was he worthy? Was the void god heaven palace worthy? West continent. Ning Tian, who had transformed into 100,000 feet tall, looked at the sky and narrowed his eyes. It's a pity that he escaped. He shook his head. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. The ancestral master was already very strong. Of the 11 emperors, 10 had died, and 1 had escaped with serious injuries. This battle record was enough to look down on all the geniuses. There's still you guys. Ning Tian looked to the side and his gaze fell on the 13 god emperors of the Righteous Alliance. Since the fiend god apocalypse still had some time, it was time to settle everything. Ancestral Master, no, don't kill us. We're willing to submit. We're willing to be the dogs of the Tianma cult. The 13 god emperors trembled and hurriedly begged for mercy. Be the dogs of the Tianma cult? Do you think you're worthy? Ning Tian sneered, raised his hand, and slammed it down. The heaven-like hand landed on the 13 god emperors. Amidst their miserable screams, they were instantly wiped out like ants. Boom. After killing the 13 god emperors, Ning Tian's gaze fell on the hundreds of thousands of soldiers of the Righteous Alliance. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes as he struck out several palms. These hundreds of thousands of soldiers were like ants in his eyes. Their lives were worthless. At this moment, he began to kill. He did not have the slightest bit of mercy, because if it were not for him today, the ones who would be reduced to such a state would definitely be the disciples of the Tianma cult. In this world, the weak did not deserve any sympathy. Ah, miserable screams could be heard incessantly. It was like hell on earth. Soon, the smell of blood filled the air. The entire forest was littered with corpses. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. The impact of the fresh blood on them made their hearts even more resolute. After a long time, hundreds of thousands of Righteous Alliance disciples had turned into corpses. Kill, kill. The black light in Ning Tian's left eye had turned scarlet. After killing until his eyes turned red, he vaguely showed signs of completely turning into a demon. Not good. Seeing this scene, Luo Wuqing's expression changed, and a trace of seriousness appeared in her beautiful eyes. If this continued, Ning Tian's mind might be completely devoured by the demonic qi. Chapter 321. Husband. Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. Without hesitation, she charged towards Ning Tian, who was in the sky. Don't come over. However, before she could get close, in the sky, Ning Tian's thunderous voice sounded. He said in a deep voice, "It's okay. I can control it. Wife, you don't have to worry about me. Take advantage of this opportunity to destroy the Righteous Tao Alliance. I even have an idea." What idea? Hearing this, everyone below couldn't help but be stunned. Take advantage of this opportunity to unify the entire heavenly spirit region. Ning Tian's voice sounded in the sky. Everyone was shocked. Unify the entire heavenly spirit region? Was the ancestral founder's appetite that big? However, if it was the ancestral founder, he might really be able to do it. Their biggest enemy, the Righteous Tao Alliance, had been eliminated. No one could stop the Tianma cult. Ancestral founder, what if someone doesn't obey? At this time, the Supreme Elder frowned slightly and asked. Everyone was silent. In the sky, only one word sounded. Kill. Hearing this, the Supreme Elder's eyes flashed and he nodded fiercely. The Masters of Heavenly Treasure Holy Land, High Heaven Sect, Transcendent Divine Kingdom, and Great Compassion Palace were stunned. When they heard the ancestral founder say that he wanted to unify the heavenly spirit region, they didn't feel any dissatisfaction in their hearts. Instead, they were looking forward to it, because the ancestral founder wasn't a villain like the Righteous Tao Alliance. At least, he was open and above board. Submitting to the Righteous Tao Alliance and submitting to the Tianma cult were two different things. Anyone with a discerning eye could see it clearly. How did the Tianma cult become stronger and stronger under the leadership of the ancestral founder? At this moment, in the sky, Ning Tian's eyes seemed to flash with a golden light. He muttered softly, "Of the 9 domains of the mysterious sky continent, the world thinks that the heavenly spirit region is the weakest. Then, I will prove it in a few years. I will let the other 8 domains and those unknown lands see how the heavenly spirit region will change under the rule of the Tianma cult." Hearing this, everyone's hearts trembled. The heavenly spirit region was above the 9 regions? They didn't even dare to think about it because the profound sky continent was simply too huge. Could the words spoken by the patriarch really be realized? You've shocked everyone. Reward, Divine Fiend Conversion Card. Able to absorb part of the Divine Fiend's power and convert it into your own strength. At this moment, the system's voice sounded again. Ning Tian ignored him because he was currently enduring the destruction of the Fiend God power within his body. To use the power of the Heavenly God physique at the Heavenly Venerable Realm, and to add a massive amount of demonic energy into his body, this was simply madness. Husband, are you really all right? It was different from the shock of the crowd. Luo Wuqing didn't think about those things. Her eyes were fixed on Ning Tian. Although her face was cold, there was a trace of warmth and worry in her eyes. I should be fine. Ning Tian shook his head and forced a smile at Luo Wuqing. Don't worry, my wife. Your husband won't die so easily. Go and do what I told you to do first. Okay. Hearing this, Luo Wuqing also knew that she couldn't win against him, so she nodded. Just as she was about to move, she turned around again and her beautiful eyes fell on Ning Tian. Wait for me to come back. After saying that, she turned around. Stepping into the void, she appeared in the sky. Everyone in the Tianma cult's eyes fell on her. All disciples and elders, follow me and kill. Yes, yes, Empress. In an instant, all the disciples and elders' eyes flashed, and their fighting spirits soared into the sky. The counterattack from the Tianma cult was about to begin. Seeing this scene, the powerhouses of the four sects looked at each other with strange expressions. Everything had reversed too quickly, it was like a dream. They all looked at Ning Tian, who had transformed into 100,000 feet tall. All of this was brought about by their patriarch, a miracle. The sky of the heavenly spirit realm has finally changed. The order that has been maintained for millions of years has finally been broken. The patriarch of the divine nation sighed, but his eyes flashed. I'm glad that we made the right choice. The leaders of the other three factions heaved a heavy sigh of relief. When the Tianma cult's banner was raised, the remnants of the alliance of righteous sects collapsed. The sounds of killing rang out continuously. The Tianma cult perfectly carried out Ning Tian's words. Those who refused to obey were killed. It was also at this moment that everyone in the heavenly spirit realm understood the Tianma cult's ambition. They wanted to unify the entire heavenly spirit realm. For millions of years, the heavenly spirit realm had its own order, and no one force had ever dominated. But now, this order that had been maintained for millions of years was finally going to be broken today. No one in the entire heavenly spirit realm was a match for the Empress. Moreover, some of the sect leaders weren't stupid. Resistance was tantamount to death. There was no doubt about this. Therefore, the entire process was simple and smooth. Several hours later, the great battle had come to an end. When Luo Wuqing appeared in the sky, everyone's eyes shone brightly. From this day onward, the Tianma cult had become the undisputed #1 force and would rule the entire heavenly spirit realm. Where's my husband? When Luo Wuqing arrived, she didn't see Ning Tian, who had transformed into a 10,000-meter-tall figure. She couldn't help but frown and look at some of the elders of the Tianma cult. Empress, the patriarch is over there. The elders bowed slightly and pointed not far away. Ning Tian had long since withdrawn from the god-demon apocalypse state. He was currently sitting cross-legged on the ground, his brows tightly knitted and his expression somewhat grave. Seeing this, Luo Wuqing walked over. Before she could get close, Ning Tian sensed a familiar aura. She opened her eyes and looked over. Wife, it's over. Yes. Luo Wuqing nodded slightly, then frowned and looked at Ning Tian. My husband, what's on your body? It's nothing. Don't worry. Ning Tian forced a smile at her, then slowly got up. The Tianma cult has done such a big thing. Shouldn't we celebrate? As he spoke, he pushed her to the side. Then, he followed behind him, strolling leisurely. However, no one noticed. When he got up, he gently pulled up his clothes a little. Vaguely, there seemed to be a wisp of black energy flowing out of his clothes. The two of them walked to the front of the crowd. Patriarch, Empress. Seeing the two of them walk over, everyone hurriedly bowed, their eyes filled with deep reverence. The two people in front of them, they were the strongest forces in the entire heavenly spirit realm. The strongest people. Thank you for your hard work. A glimmer of light flashed in Luo Wuqing's eyes. She looked at the experts of the four sects and said in a cold voice, I believe that your choice won't disappoint you. Thank you, Empress. Hearing this, the leaders of the four sects were all overjoyed. With this sentence, they were in the bag. Chapter 322. Hee. The leaders of the four sects couldn't stop grinning. They knew that with the Empress's words, their status in the celestial spirit realm would skyrocket and become unstoppable. After a long discussion, Ancestral Master, Empress, since the crisis has been resolved, I'm sure you'll have to clean up the battlefield. We won't disturb you any further. Tianbao, Sacred Lord, smiled and bowed to Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing. Then, no one planned to stay and expressed their intention to leave. After all, the Tianma cult would take care of the rest. My godly nation is also preparing to leave. The leader of the godly nation laughed. Just as he was about to leave, he realized that his godly horse had disappeared. Moon Spirit, did you see my godly horse? He frowned and asked aloud. Godly horse? Princess Moon Spirit froze for a moment, then shook her head. Father, I didn't see your godly horse. The leader of the godly nation frowned. It was just a battle. How did his godly horse disappear? Just as he was puzzled, suddenly, he saw Zhu Yuanbua humming a little tune as he walked toward them. He was holding a rope in his hand, and tied to the rope was the corpse of a godly horse. Leader of the godly nation, this isn't your godly horse, right? Tianbao, Sacred Lord, coughed dryly and asked tentatively. The leader of the godly nation's face darkened. He gritted his teeth and nodded. Everyone, Holy Sun, my goodness, what are you doing? Tianbao, Sacred Lord, hurriedly ran over and asked Zhu Yuanbua, what's wrong? Zhu Yuanbua froze for a moment. Then, he saw that everyone was looking at him. He couldn't help but scratch his head. Why are you all looking at me? Shouldn't there be a celebratory feast after the battle? You and I are both gluttons. I'm just sacrificing my godly horse to improve the food. The leader of the godly nation. Everyone. What a glutton. Forget it. Forget it. The Divine Kingdom Lord waved his hand. Forget it. Just take it as me sacrificing myself for food. Hee. Zhu Yuanbua chuckled and proudly said, Monarch, I've learned the art of stewing horses from that girl Yuqin. I guarantee that you'll eat 3 big bowls with tears in your eyes. Impossible. This is my beloved horse. How could I do that? The Divine Nation Master waved his hand, his face resolute. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but laugh. With the battle over, the atmosphere was much more relaxed. Since you said that there will be a celebratory feast after the battle, then let's hold it. At this moment, Luo Wuqing's red lips parted slightly as she slowly spoke. She looked at Ning Tian and asked, Husband, what do you think? Yes. Ning Tian nodded slightly, but his face was unusually dark. He squeezed out a strained smile. Then, according to everyone's, suddenly, before he could finish his sentence, a huge amount of devil chi burst out from his body. Boom. At the same time, the pagoda demon pagoda appeared. It suppressed most of the devil chi in time, then turned into a ray of cold light and entered Ning Tian's glabella. It was also at this moment, Ning Tian's vision turned black, and he completely lost consciousness. His body was filled with dense black chi. This sudden turn of events caught everyone off guard. When they finally came to their senses, all of their expressions changed drastically. Patriarch, are you okay? Everyone was a little confused by this sudden scene. At this moment, a gentle emperor's aura enveloped Ning Tian. Luo Wuqing gently hugged him in her arms. Looking at the black chi circulating around Ning Tian's body, her brows furrowed, and her expression was unusually solemn. Empress, what's wrong with the patriarch? All the experts looked over, their eyes full of doubts. It's fine. Perhaps he consumed too much energy. Luo Wuqing shook her head. The most important thing now was to calm everyone down. She looked at them coldly. Don't make this matter public. With that, she picked up Ning Tian and flew to the back of the mountain. Seeing this scene, the experts' expressions were solemn, but more of them were worried. Tianma cult's back mountain. In the sacred pond, Luo Wuqing gently placed Ning Tian on the stone surface in the pond. Looking at the traces of devil chi circulating around his body, she couldn't help but frown. What is this? She murmured. This devil chi couldn't be removed even if she used her emperor's aura. And the pagoda demon pagoda seemed to have drilled into my husband's body just now. What does this mean? Puzzled voices sounded in the sacred pond. After a while, Ning Tian showed no signs of waking up. Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. After checking that there was no problem with Ning Tian's vitality, she was a little worried and set up an array to protect him. After doing all this, she left quietly. Perhaps, entering the pagoda demon pagoda brought Ning Tian an opportunity. At this moment, in a pitch-black space, Ning Tian's consciousness appeared here. This is, looking around, a trace of doubt flashed in Ning Tian's eyes. Soon, the system's voice sounded and answered his doubts. Host, this is the first level of the pagoda demon pagoda. You will use the divine demon conversion card here to remove the devil chi in your body. The devil chi will also transform into your strength. The first level of the pagoda demon pagoda? Hearing the system's words, Ning Tian frowned. When can I get out of here? He didn't forget that he was still in a coma. If it was too long, his silly wife would definitely be worried. The system said, when the divine demon conversion card is almost used up. I see. Ning Tian nodded slightly and heaved a sigh of relief. In that case, he would make good use of the divine demon conversion card to improve his strength. System, use the divine demon conversion card. He took a deep breath and said in his heart, using the divine demon conversion card. Use successful. Instantly. However, after the system's voice faded, several black shadows appeared on the first level of the pagoda demon pagoda. They charged toward Ning Tian ferociously. Host, this is the transformation of the divine demon aura. Destroy them and use the divine demon conversion card to improve yourself. Okay. Ning Tian nodded. Then, the scarlet heaven sword appeared in his hand, and he looked coldly at the several black demonic shadows that were rushing towards him. His sword Dao instantly slashed, and in the blink of an eye, several demonic shadows died under the sword, turning into dense spiritual energy that rushed into Ning Tian's body. Is this the conversion that the system mentioned? There was a flash of light in Ning Tian's eyes. At the same time, when the demonic shadows dissipated, new ones appeared. These shadows were endless. Ning Tian didn't mind and killed all of them with his sword. On the first level of the pagoda demon pagoda, figures flashed and moved. The flaming sword gleam flickered continuously in the dark space. In the outside world, Ning Tian was unconscious and in a deep sleep. However, who would have thought that his consciousness would start an endless massacre in the pagoda demon pagoda? Chapter 323. In the past few days, Luo Wuqing would go to the back of the mountain from time to time, but unfortunately, Ning Tian showed no signs of waking up in the sacred pool. But the only thing that could let her breathe a sigh of relief was, at the very least, Ning Tian's vital signs were still very stable. This meant that other than being unconscious, at least his life was not in danger. Sigh. In the sacred pool, Luo Wuqing sighed faintly and turned to leave. After the Tianma cult unified the entire Tianling domain, there were still many things waiting for her to deal with. It had been several months since Ning Tian fell into a coma. Under the leadership of Luo Wuqing, the Tianling domain had also completely ushered in the rule of the Tianma cult. Everything was in order. This also allowed everyone in the Tianling domain to see the Empress's means. She killed decisively. She was definitely not a vase. However, in the past few months, the patriarch who had truly turned the balance of victory had not appeared for a long time. This also made many people a little suspicious. Could it be that the patriarch had also been seriously injured in this battle? For a time, many people guessed. West Continent. It had been several months since the end of the last battle. The heavenly demon cult that had been destroyed beyond recognition gradually regained its former grandeur. Many buildings had been repaired. Anyway, for the Tianma cult, they were already very familiar with the destruction of buildings, so they were also very skilled in cultivation. Don't ask why they were so skilled. Everything was because of that man. In the demonic palace. Supreme Elder, is the Tianling domain still peaceful recently? In the main hall, Luo Wuqing sat on the high seat. She looked indifferently at the group of elders below and asked in a cold voice, Empress, Except for some small forces who have been spreading rumors that the patriarch has died, everything is fine, the Supreme Elder said respectfully. The patriarch had died? Hearing this, the corners of the elder's mouths couldn't help but twitch. The person who spread this rumor was really a genius. Oh, there is such a person? Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of killing intent. She waved her hand disinterestedly and said indifferently, "In that case, Grand Elder, take some people and destroy them." "Yes, Your Majesty." The Supreme Elder nodded. At this time, Luo Wuqing stood up slightly. It seemed that he was going to go out. "You guys stay in the Tianma cult. I'm going to meet a different friend." With that, she gracefully turned around and stepped into the void, disappearing without a trace. Different friends? Hearing this, the group of elders in the hall was stunned. They couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. In the mountains. This place was surrounded by mountains and looked like a paradise on earth. In the sky, a beautiful figure stepped out from the void. Her beautiful eyes landed on the mountains below, and she seemed to be counting. 3, 2, 1. The moment his voice fell, boom, a loud explosion was heard. Immediately after, in the mountains below, birds flew up in fright, and countless demonic beasts fled in all directions. A holy light barrier appeared from the mountains and fell in front of Luo Wuqing. Several months have passed. The Jade Lake's sacred ground should have come out from the mountain closing array, she murmured. The holy light barrier in front of her slowly dissipated. Then, countless buildings in the Jade Lake appeared in front of her. After several months of recuperation, the Jade Lake sacred ground had gradually recovered. Whoosh! At this time, a beautiful figure flew out from the Jade Lake sacred ground, accompanied by a burst of bell-like laughter. "Haha! I didn't expect that you would come to the Jade Lake after the mountain closing array was lifted." The Queen Mother of the West appeared beside Luo Wuqing. As she spoke, she looked at Luo Wuqing. "Don't look. He's not here," Luo Wuqing said with a calm face. "Oh," the Queen Mother of the West replied with an "oh," obviously a little disappointed. "Something happened to my husband. Come with me to the Tianma cult. By the way, tell me what happened in the past few months." Luo Wuqing looked at the Queen Mother of the West and said slowly, "Huh? What? Something happened to the ancestral master?" Hearing this, the disappointment on the Queen Mother of the West's face disappeared instantly, replaced by a touch of panic and worry. "What happened to the ancestral master? Come with me." Luo Wuqing didn't explain too much. He just shook his head and said to the Queen Mother of the West, "Okay." The Queen Mother of the West nodded slightly, her eyes full of anxiety. The two women set off. In the Jade Lake, seeing their sacred lord leave as soon as the mountain closing array was lifted, the elders of the Jade Lake were speechless. Perhaps this was a woman in love. Along the way, Luo Wuqing slowly told the Queen Mother of the West about what happened in the past 6 months. When she heard that Ning Tian had defeated dozens of martial monarchs by himself, the Queen Mother of the West was filled with pride, as expected of her man. However, she also felt a little guilty. If she had activated the Great Mountain Ceiling Formation, she would not have been able to escape. If she had activated the Mountain Closing Array, she could have shared the burden with the Ancestral Master. Soon, the two women returned to the Tianma cult and went to the Holy Lake at the back of the mountain. Ancestral Master, this is, seeing the unconscious Ning Tian lying in the middle of the Holy Lake, the Queen Mother of the West frowned slightly, her beautiful eyes full of worry. "I don't know." Luo Wuqing shook his head slightly. "Although my husband has been unconscious for several months, his life isn't in danger. Moreover, speaking of this, a light flashed in her beautiful eyes. There's some black aura in his body." "Black aura?" The Queen Mother of the West was stunned. She frowned slightly and asked tentatively, "Could it be demonic aura?" "Perhaps." "Come over and take a look." Luo Wuqing beckoned to the Queen Mother of the West. The Queen Mother of the West walked over doubtfully. The two women walked into the Holy Lake. The lake water quickly soaked their clothes, but they didn't care. "Look." As Luo Wuqing spoke, she slowly unbuttoned Ning Tian's clothes. Then, she pointed at his naked upper body and said, "These black lines seem to be imprinted on my husband's body." As expected, the Queen Mother of the West touched it. It was true. "Does this black aura have any impression of the ancestral master?" she asked. Luo Wuqing shook his head slightly. "I don't know. I've been observing for the past few months. At first, the black aura covered my husband's body. However, as the time passed, these black lines became fewer and fewer. Therefore, I think that my husband's coma might be to remove these black lines." Hearing this, the Queen Mother of the West fell into silence. She looked at Ning Tian silently. In this case, if the ancestral master wanted to wake up, wouldn't he have to remove all the black lines before he could wake up? Suddenly, her pretty face changed, and a hint of joy flashed in her eyes. Because, just now, she seemed to have seen the ancestral master's finger move. Chapter 324. I think I saw the ancestral master move. The Queen Mother of the West's red lips parted slightly, and her beautiful eyes flashed with joy. "Huh? Really?" Hearing this, Luo Wuqing was stunned for a moment and immediately looked at Ning Tian. However, Ning Tian, who was lying on the stone surface, still had his eyes closed, and a faint black aura was flowing out of his body. He didn't look like he was about to wake up. He clearly didn't move. Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. It's true. He really moved. The Queen Mother of the West pouted and looked up and down at Ning Tian, who was lying on the stone surface, with a hint of seduction in her eyes. She did see Ning Tian's fingers move slightly just now. This meant that Ning Tian's life was not in danger. Moreover, now that the ancestral master was unconscious, didn't that mean she could do whatever she wanted? Soon, the Queen Mother of the West looked at Luo Wuqing playfully and said, "I know why the ancestral master hasn't woken up yet." Huh. Luo Wuqing raised her eyebrows and looked at the Queen Mother of the West in confusion. Why? The ancestral master is trying to disperse the demonic aura, but I'm afraid it's difficult for him to disperse the demonic aura quickly with his strength alone, so he needs our help, the Queen Mother of the West said seriously. But I've tried all kinds of methods, and there's no effect at all. Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. No. That's because your methods are useless. I know a method that can help the ancestral master wake up completely with the help of the two of us, the Queen Mother of the West said seriously. Huh. What method? The Queen Mother of the West looked proud. As she spoke, she leaned over and whispered something in Luo Wuqing's ear. This is the special treatment method of the Jade Lake Sacred Ground. It's called the color massage method. There was a long silence in the sacred lake. After a while, swoosh. Luo Wuqing's beautiful face instantly flushed red. Are we really going to do this? She hesitated as she looked at the Queen Mother of the West. She still did not believe that the color massage method would work. Of course it's true. For the sake of the patriarch, I can't lie to you, right? The Queen Mother of the West spouted nonsense without blushing or skipping a beat. Luo Wuqing was silent. The back of his ears was red. After a while, she gritted her teeth and clenched her small fists. She seemed to have mustered up her courage and walked towards Ning Tian. Under the playful gaze of the Queen Mother of the West, she slowly took off the clothes on her body, and her jade-like, delicate body came into view. Then, she blushed and gently helped Ning Tian take off his clothes. The color massage technique mentioned by the Queen Mother of the West was too strange. Haha, patriarch, I've done well as a concubine, haven't I? The Queen Mother of the West chuckled mischievously. Then, looking at Luo Wuqing, who was serving Ning Tian, she couldn't help but walk over. At this moment, on the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower, Ning Tian didn't know that such a good thing would happen after he fainted. At this moment, he was still in the midst of endless killing. Host, there are still 100 left. At this moment, the system's notification sounded in his mind. A blue screen of light appeared before Ning Tian's eyes at this moment. Divine Demon Transformation, 9999001000000. Unknowingly, in these few months, he had already killed nearly 1,000,000 demonic shadows on the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower. Roar! In the pitch-black floor, several demonic shadows rushed over. Only 100 left? Simple. A cold glint flashed in Ning Tian's eyes. His figure turned into a ghost and disappeared into thin air. In the blink of an eye, he rushed towards the demonic shadows. In these few months, his strength was also increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Moreover, the most terrifying thing was that in these few months, his Tao attainment was also increasing at a terrifying speed. Boom! In the pitch-black floor, sword light flashed, accompanied by palm sounds and fist winds, instantly destroying many black shadows. A few minutes later, wind thunder divine palm. Boom! In the pitch-black darkness, thousands of wind and thunder flashed and turned into a cold palm, blasting towards the last demonic shadow. Arg! The demonic shadow screamed continuously. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into thin air. Phew! The wind and thunder on Ning Tian's body dissipated. Looking at the divine demon transformation in front of him, he finally let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, it's over. System, how long have I been in this Buddha Demon Tower? As long as 3 months. 3 months? Ning Tian frowned slightly. Looks like I have to get out as soon as possible. He made up his mind. He began the last step of the divine demon transformation, which was also the most important step. System, start releasing the divine demon transformation energy. Ning Tian said. Then, he sat cross-legged. At the same time, he activated the Heavenly God Record and Sanqing Palace. The huge spiritual sea in his body began to boil, receiving the divine demon transformation energy for the host. Host, please be prepared. 3, 2, 1. The moment the system's voice fell, boom, there was a loud explosion. The divine demon transformation energy was forcefully injected into Ning Tian's body. His eyes lit up instantly. Power. This was the power that he desired. Phew. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes slightly, and began to absorb the divine demon transformation energy in his heart. Absorbing. 10 times absorption is no longer effective. Currently, 100 times absorption is activated. As the system's voice fell, the divine demon transformation energy was absorbed even faster. Half an hour later, boom! A huge aura spread out from Ning Tian's body. Host has broken through to the 9-star heavenly venerable realm. Swordsmanship has broken through to the acme of perfection. Fist has broken through to the acme of perfection. Wind and thunder has broken through to the acme of perfection. Palm has broken through to the acme of perfection. Void has broken through to the acme of perfection. The system's voice kept ringing in his mind. At this moment, Ning Tian's aura was soaring all the way. After absorbing the 1,000,000 divine demon transformation energy, he broke through several realms in one go. He was only one step away from entering the God Arch realm. Moreover, in the past few months of training, several of his Tao attainments had also broken through and comprehended. Some of them had even reached their limits. He was only one realm away from reaching the legendary Tao Immortal realm. Phew, this feels so good. Ning Tian slowly opened his eyes. There was a flash of excitement in his eyes. The 3 months of training had not been in vain. The increase in his strength was the best proof. System, host, a friendly reminder. There is still a little divine demon totem in your body. It is recommended that you remove it. Ning Tian nodded slightly. At this moment, after the 1,000,000 divine demon transformation energy dissipated, the first level of the Buddha Demon Pagoda was completely lit up. However, Ning Tian was not in a hurry to check. Instead, he stretched his back. After being unconscious for several months, it's time to wake up, he mumbled. His consciousness disappeared into the first level. Chapter 325. Ning Tian froze for a moment. Before he could finish his sentence, the Queen Mother of the West carefully touched it with her finger. Hiss! Ning Tian couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Husband, what's wrong? Seeing this scene, the two women immediately became a little nervous. Ning Tian pretended to be in pain and forced a smile as he said to the two women, "It's nothing. It just hurts a little. I need both of your little hands to rub it." "SK, we don't believe you." Hearing Ning Tian's words, the two women heaved a sigh of relief and rolled their eyes at Ning Tian. "This guy just loves to act." Hee. Ning Tian chuckled, but a trace of cold sweat quietly flowed down his forehead. A trace of seriousness flashed in his eyes. Just now, he did feel a piercing pain from the divine demon totem. It was as if the pain was piercing his heart. However, in order to not worry the two women too much, he could only force himself to endure it. It seemed that this thing had to be removed as soon as possible. It was a hidden danger after all. "Husband, you have to get rid of this thing on you as soon as possible." "Yes, wait for me to return to the Jade Pool and look through the ancient books." At this moment, the two women were still lying on his chest, studying the divine demon totem seriously. Ning Tian couldn't help but feel a burst of warmth in his heart. With such women, what more could he ask for? The corners of his mouth lifted into a smile, and he reached out his large hand to pull the two women into his arms. What are you doing?" The two women exclaimed in surprise. "Nothing. We're just doing something that we love to do." Ning Tian laughed loudly. They finally realized sleeping together. A few days later, West Continent, Tianma Cult, Heavenly Demon Palace. The powerhouses of the four sects all arrived as scheduled, and one by one, they landed in the main hall. "Empress, why did you call us here?" The King of Scandinavia looked at Luo Wuqing in confusion and asked. Luo Wuqing's lips curled into a smile as he looked at the people in the main hall. "Wasn't the celebration banquet delayed because of some matters? Today, I want to make it up to everyone." "Oh, make up for the victory feast?" Hearing this, everyone in the hall was stunned. The divine nation's sovereign immediately reacted and looked at Luo Wuqing tentatively. Could it be that the ancestral master is awake? Whoosh! All at once, inside the main hall, everyone's eyes were filled with excitement and fanaticism as they looked over. Was the patriarch finally awake? Hee. If the ancestor wakes up, I will definitely get a pair of the ancestor's original underwear. My intuition is getting more and more certain. What if this underwear is worth more than an immortal item in the future? No, it's already worth more than an immortal item now. Hee, patriarch is awake. I can finally meet the legendary man. Within the main hall, everyone was discussing animatedly. Then, the void emerged. Two figures stepped out of the void. They were Ning Tian and the Queen Mother of the West. "It's the patriarch. The patriarch is not dead." "Bah, even if you die, the patriarch will not die." "Ha ha ha. The legend of our Tianma cult is indeed immortal." Seeing Ning Tian, everyone in the main hall was excited. "Well, don't be so excited, everyone. It's not a life and death parting." Ning Tian smiled faintly and waved his hand, motioning everyone in the main hall to be quiet. Hee, it's the patriarch. In the main hall, hearing Ning Tian's words, everyone nodded. "Well, let's start the celebration banquet." "Okay." Soon, the atmosphere in the main hall became lively all of a sudden. Until, make way, all of you. Zhu Yuanbua pushed a huge dining table over. On the table, there were all kinds of dishes. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help being stunned. "Tianbao Saint, what are you doing?" The Supreme Elder frowned slightly and looked at Zhu Yuanbua in confusion. Seeing this, the Tianbao Saint and the others' faces darkened. They hummed a tune and turned their heads to the side. "Sorry." From this moment on, the Tianbao Saint temporarily lost their saint. Zhu Yuanbao chuckled. Under the gaze of everyone in the hall, he mysteriously pointed at the dishes on the table and introduced them in a serious manner. "This is the Righteous Alliance's horse. This is the Carefree Sacred Grounds horse. This is the Limitless Pavilion's horse. This is the Divine Nation's horse. In short, it's a horse banquet. How is it? Do you like it?" Zhu Yuanbua looked at everyone with a smile. "Everyone, do you want to eat a horse?" Hearing this, Everyone in the main hall was stunned. Their expressions were a little strange, although they knew that this horse was not the same horse. However, for some reason, the words that came out of Zhu Yuanbao's mouth sounded different. Tianbao Saint, why does your saint have a problem with horses? The kingdom of God's Lord was confused. What saint? Since when did the Tianbao Saint have a saint? The Tianbao Saint pretended to be confused. The kingdom of God's Lord. At this moment, Zhu Yuanbo walked over with a smile. He was holding a plate of horse meat in his hands. My lord, try this barbecued mud horse that I made for you. I'm not eating it. The kingdom of God's Lord was determined. I'm the king of a kingdom. How can I eat my own beloved horse? Even if I starve to death and jump off the supreme cliff, I'll definitely not eat a bite. Wait a minute. It smells good? Hey, damn fatty, come over here and let me smell you. If you don't give me a pair of chopsticks, how can I smell it? Cough, cough. I have to say, it smells good. I'll reluctantly take a small bite. Hey, my lord, eat slowly. Leave some for others. That whip is for myself. Zhu Yuanbo's voice could be heard in the main hall. Seeing this scene, the three people in the main hall twitched their mouths. Husband, has he always been like this? Yes, this guy has a special liking for horses since the last time. Ning Tian nodded slightly. He smiled and looked at the two women. Okay, wives, let's eat too. Yes. Although the two women didn't need to eat at all and just needed to absorb spirit qi, why not accompany their husband to eat? The celebration banquet ended. Ning Tian and the other two had already arrived outside the main hall and were enjoying the night breeze. Ancestral Master, I've been looking through all sorts of information and ancient books these past few days. I've finally found a solution. The Queen Mother of the West tidied her hair that had been blown away by the wind. Then, she blinked and looked at Ning Tian. Oh, what solution? Hearing this, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing's eyes lit up. The Divine God's Water. Soak your body in the Divine God's water. Not only can it remove the abnormality in your body, but it can also improve your physique. The Queen Mother said slowly. In the past few days, she also learned about Ning Tian's physique. In fact, she had some guesses in the past, but these days, she confirmed them. The Divine God's water? The two of them were stunned. Then, they looked at her and asked, where is the Divine God's water? Chapter 326. The Divine Sacred Pond. The Queen Mother of the West's eyes lit up as she looked at them and said slowly, it is said that the heavenly deity's sacred pond was formed by a drop of blood essence from a great success heavenly deity body. It still retains its divinity. This kind of sacred pond can not only dispel the godly demon totem on your body, but it can also improve your heavenly deity body. The Divine Sacred Pond? A drop of essence blood of a divine body at the profound realm? Hearing this, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. If it could dispel the celestial demon totem on him and improve his divine body, it was killing two birds with one stone. However, where is the Divine Sacred Pond? Ning Tian looked at the Queen Mother of the West seriously and asked, the ethereal immortal mountain. The Queen Mother of the West said slowly, the ethereal immortal mountain? Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. She frowned slightly. She felt that she had heard this name somewhere before. It sounded familiar. Could it be the ethereal sect of the firmament territory? At this moment, Luo Wuqing said softly while Ning Tian was thinking, the ethereal sect? Hearing this, Ning Tian's expression became strange. He immediately thought of the girl who stole the horse. Husband, you know the ethereal sect? Seeing Ning Tian's reaction, the two girls looked at him. Yes, I've heard of it. Ning Tian nodded and said slowly, if it's the ethereal sect of the firmament territory, I can ask the Supreme Divine Nation to recommend it. Oh? Why? The two girls were puzzled. It's like this. Then, Ning Tian slowly explained the relationship between the Supreme Divine Nation and the ethereal sect. Oh, you Qin girl and Princess Moon Spirit? I didn't expect your trip to the Divine Land City to be so exciting. Wearing an ugly mask, you can still attract two beauties. After hearing this, the Queen Mother of the West said with a sly smile, "Oh, don't you know?" Hearing the Queen Mother's words, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. This woman definitely knew about his deeds in Divine Land City, but why did she have to emphasize it again? Wait a minute. Something was wrong. It was a trap? Suddenly, there seemed to be a jade hand caressing his waist. His body instantly stiffened as he mechanically turned around, only to see Luo Wuching with an icy expression on her beautiful face. Ning Tian quickly coughed dryly. Ahem, wife, calm down. I'm not interested in Yu Qin. That girl can't afford a humph. Luo Wuching snorted coldly. Only then did the jade-like hand on Ning Tian's waist quietly fall. However, before Ning Tian could heave a sigh of relief, the Queen Mother of the West added, "What about Princess Moon's spirit?" Ning Tian glared at the Queen Mother of the West. The Queen Mother of the West giggled and licked her red lips provocatively. It seemed that this concubine needed to be trained more. Well, it seemed that he had to teach her some principles tonight. Forget it. At this moment, Luo Wuqing didn't seem to want to talk about this anymore. She glanced at Ning Tian and said coldly, "I don't think he dares to. Otherwise, cut him." Cut him? That's not good, right? The Queen Mother of the West raised her eyebrows. Cut him? Then what about her happiness? Luo Wuqing narrowed her eyes and looked over coldly. Hee, then we'll do as you say. The Queen Mother of the West hurriedly smiled and then spread her hands at Ning Tian helplessly. Founder, since the big wife has spoken, the concubine can't help you. Okay, when the banquet is almost done, call the people from the Supreme Kingdom over, Luo Wuqing said. Okay, the two of them nodded. Half an hour later, in the Heavenly Demon Palace, Zhu Yuanbua and the King of the Supreme Kingdom had their arms around each other's shoulders. Both of their faces were a little red. It seemed that they had drunk a lot of spirit wine. After all, this was the Tianma cult's banquet. Even if they could use spirit energy to sober up, they couldn't be bothered to do so. Brother Zhu, just you wait. The Supreme Kingdom still has more than 100,000 horses. I'll catch them all for you. When the time comes, I want to eat braised horse whip, barbecued horse trotters, boiled horse head. The Supreme Kingdom doesn't have many things, but horses do. I have enough. The King of the Supreme Kingdom put his arm around Zhu Yuanbua's neck and muttered while patting his chest. Hee. Thank you, King. When the time comes, I guarantee that you'll eat 3 big bowls with tears in your eyes. I'm familiar with this. Zhu Yuanbua chuckled. Seeing this scene, the corners of everyone's mouths couldn't help but twitch. Damn it. After eating a horse, these two actually called each other brothers? Sacred Lord, why didn't I realize that the saint had this ability before? Taoist Tianbao scratched his head and said to Sacred Lord Tianbao. Sacred Lord Tianbao's mouth twitched. At the side, Moon's spirit couldn't help but hold her forehead helplessly when she saw this scene. She had a feeling that if she didn't stop the two of them, all the horses in the Supreme Kingdom would be killed. At this moment, the Supreme Elder walked over and looked at the King of the Supreme Kingdom and Moon Spirit. He said slowly, King, Princess Moon Spirit, the Ancestral Master and the others have invited you to Fengyu House. Ancestral Master? Hearing this, the King of the Supreme Kingdom, who was still drunk, suddenly sobered up. Supreme Elder, why is the Ancestral Master looking for us? He looked at the Supreme Elder carefully. This I don't know. It shouldn't be anything bad. Don't worry, King. The Supreme Elder shook his head. Okay. The King of the Supreme Kingdom nodded and walked toward Fengyu House with Moon Spirit. Fengyu House. This was originally the place where the Tianma cult entertained their guests, but because there were too many people at the celebration banquet, they chose to hold it in the Sky Demon Palace. When the King of the Supreme Kingdom and Moon Spirit arrived at Fengyu House, they saw that Ning Tian and the others were already sitting there, waiting for their arrival. Greetings, Ancestral Master, Empress, and Jade Lake Sacred Master. The King of the Supreme Kingdom bowed. The 3 people in front of him could be said to be the 3 strongest people in the Sky Spirit realm, so he had to be careful with his words. Moon Spirit, who was beside him, bowed as well. King, There's no need to be so formal. Ning Tian smiled and gestured to the two of them. We're in the same boat now. Please take a seat. Hearing this, the king of the Supreme Kingdom's nervous heart relaxed a little. Over the past few months, with the help of the Tianma cult, their Supreme Kingdom had defeated the enemy in the north. Moreover, the entire Sky Spirit realm was now under the rule of the Tianma cult. They were indeed in the same boat. The two of them sat down, and the Fengyu house's maidservants quickly poured 2 cups of hot tea for them. Not bad. As expected of the Tianma cult's good tea, the king of the Supreme Kingdom picked up the hot tea and took a sip. Then, he put down the teacup and looked at Ning Tian and the others. His expression gradually became serious. May I know why the ancestral master has called me and my daughter here? Chapter 327. In Stormhouse. The king of the kingdom of God and Moon Spirit looked at Ning Tian carefully, waiting for his answer. Ning Tian was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, he took a sip of tea to moisten his throat before saying, I would like to make a trip to Ethereal Sect. Ethereal Sect? Hearing that, the king of the kingdom of God and Moon Spirit were stunned. Moon Spirit frowned slightly and looked at Ning Tian, asking, Ancestral Master, you want to go to Ethereal Sect? Yes. Ning Tian nodded slightly. The king of the kingdom of God and Moon Spirit were puzzled and wanted to ask. However, before they could say anything, Ning Tian shook his head and said indifferently, Naturally, I have something to do with going to Ethereal Sect. You don't have to ask. Hearing that, the two of them opened their mouths but did not say anything. The two of them fell into silence. After a while, the king of the kingdom of God nodded and looked at Moon Spirit, saying, Moon Spirit, bring the ancestral master to Ethereal Sect then? Yes. However, ancestral master. Halfway through her sentence, Moon Spirit looked at Ning Tian. We have to wait for at least 2 weeks before we can leave for Ethereal Sect. Oh? Ning Tian raised his brows. Why? Ethereal Sect is located in Ethereal Immortal Mountain. Ethereal Immortal Mountain is dangerous, and there are many monsters. Therefore, Ethereal Sect will seal the mountain for a long time to prevent their disciples from coming out. It's basically once every half a year, and it's exactly 2 weeks away from the next opening. I see. Hearing that, Ning Tian understood something. No wonder that girl Yuqin had so much fun the last time. It turned out that they could only come out once every half a year. However, Moon Spirit, are you a disciple of Ethereal Sect or? Ning Tian looked at Moon Spirit and asked curiously. It's like this. I'm actually a nominal disciple of Ethereal Sect, so I'm not affected by this condition, Moon Spirit explained with a smile. Yes. All right then. I'll come to your Divine Land City 2 days later. Ning Tian nodded slightly and said, In the entire Heavenly Spirit realm, it seemed that only the Supreme Divine Nation possessed a teleportation pillar that could teleport between realms. Although the Tianma cult had already started preparations, they had not yet completed them. Yes. Then, Ancestral Master, we'll take our leave first. Since the decision had been made, the Divine Nation Master and Moon Spirit didn't stay for long. After bowing to Ning Tian, the two of them left. After the two sovereigns left, inside Stormhouse, only Ning Tian and the other two were left. The three of them drank tea leisurely. After a while, Luo Wuqing put down the teacup, glanced at Ning Tian, and said, Husband, do you need us to accompany you on this trip? The moment he said that, Shi Wangmu looked at Ning Tian. No need. Ning Tian drank the tea in the teacup in one gulp, shook his head and chuckled. If you two go with me, Ethereal Sect will probably close the mountain gate and never come out again. Hearing this, Luo Wuqing and Shi Wangmu felt that it made sense. All right. Ning Tian got up, put his hands on the two women's shoulders, and chuckled. My two wives, don't worry. Just wait for my return in the Heavenly Spirit realm. Yes. The two women nodded. Suddenly, they felt a hand with bad intentions coming towards them. Swish. Their faces turned red. You, what do you want? Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of doubt, while Shi Wangmu looked expectant. Nothing. I just thought that since it's cold, it's time to take you to exercise. Ning Tian smiled. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. In these few days, Ning Tian exercised from time to time and went to the headquarters of the Righteous Alliance to see if there was anything good. His days were quite comfortable. It was a pity. Although old thief Shang Tian of the Righteous Alliance left behind many things, none of them were of great use. Tianma cult. In a secret room, Ning Tian sat cross-legged on the ground. In front of him, a small black tower surrounded by black gas appeared in front of him. He let out a puzzled sound. Strange. Why do I feel that the Buddha Demon Tower seems to be stronger than before? Ning Tian muttered to himself. His puzzled gaze landed on the small black tower in front of him. At this moment, although the Buddha Demon Tower's appearance had not changed at all, its aura was much stronger overall. The system. That's because the host released the demonic aura on the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower. Every time a floor is released, the power of the Buddha Demon Tower used to suppress the things inside will return a little. I see. Ning Tian nodded. The bloodthirsty Demon King on the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower had been used as nourishment during the celestial demon symbiosis, and he had killed millions of demonic shadows on the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower. The first floor was naturally equivalent to complete liberation. Moreover, host, have you noticed that your control over the Buddha Demon Tower has increased by a lot? You can even freely control the first floor. The system's voice sounded again. Oh? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly. Then, he circulated his spirit energy and tested it. As expected, now, he could freely control the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower. Could it be? At this moment, Ning Tian seemed to have thought of something, and a glint flashed in his eyes. If I can absorb all the devils suppressed in the Buddha Devil Tower, I'll be able to completely control the Buddha Devil Tower. Buzz buzz. The entire Buddha Demon Pagoda shook. The tower spirit seemed to have responded. Looks like there's a lot to do in the future. His guess was confirmed. Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. Then, his body moved and entered the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower. He had yet to properly observe the first level of the Buddha's Devil Pagoda that had been completely lit up. Buddha Demon Tower. The first floor of the tower. A golden light flickered, and a human figure stepped out of it. I didn't expect that after gaining control of the first level of the Buddha Demon Pagoda, my entire body would be able to enter the first level. Ning Tian was a little surprised to see her entire body entering the first level. In the past, he had entered through his consciousness. After gaining control of the first floor of the tower, he could even enter his body. Perhaps this would have a different effect. After stretching his body, Ning Tian got up and walked toward the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower. There seemed to be many carvings on the walls of the first floor. He looked over and found that there were strange and ancient totems on the walls. They seemed to be used to record something. Could it be someone was once trapped in the first floor of the Buddha Demon Tower and left behind some information for the future generations? Ning Tian frowned slightly and could not help but guess. These strange totems engraved on the walls of the tower seemed to be telling something when they were connected together. Suddenly, Ning Tian was stunned. His pupils shrank as he looked at a spot in the tower. Hiss! What is this? Chapter 328. On the stone wall, a huge and strange totem immediately attracted Ning Tian's attention. He looked over with a solemn gaze. Instantly, he sucked in a breath of cold air. In the totem, a huge black shadow seemed to be attacking a city, and the city, which was millions of meters tall, was simply incomparably small in front of the black shadow. However, there was one place that was very eye-catching. In the sky above the city, when thousands of people were retreating, a figure stood in the air, facing the huge black shadow directly. It was like a god descending to the world, insufferably arrogant. It was very conspicuous in the totem mural. Seeing this scene, Ning Tian frowned, and a trace of seriousness flashed in his eyes. For some reason, although it was only a scene in the totem mural, it left a very deep impression on him. What was that black shadow that was bigger than a million meters tall city? And that eye-catching person? Wait. Suddenly, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. He frowned slightly and vaguely noticed a familiar aura. He walked over. He stretched out his hand, and the divine power in his hand was slightly activated. He gently touched the stone wall, the eye-catching person. The next moment, buzz, boom. In an instant, an imposing aura emerged from the totem, and the figure on the totem was suddenly enveloped by a burst of golden light, but it quickly dissipated again. Although the process was only a few seconds, however, Ning Tian already had a rough answer in his heart. The eye-catching person on the totem should also be someone with the divine physique. Could this be the dark turmoil? At this moment, in his mind, he couldn't help but recall what Moon Spirit and Yuqin had said in the Supreme Secret Realm. That huge black shadow was indeed very similar to an irreversible darkness. At this moment, the golden light that had dissipated suddenly lit up again. It turned into a ball of light, floating in front of Ning Tian. This is... He frowned slightly and gently touched the golden ball of light with his finger. Detected that the host has touched the method of comprehension. Do you wish to comprehend? It was also at this moment the system's voice rang in Ning Tian's mind. Comprehension method? Hearing this, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. Then, with a trace of curiosity, he nodded silently. Yes, comprehending. A few minutes later, Ning Tian's body was protected by a golden light, and a wisp of heavenly god energy flowed out from his body. 3 forms of divine punishment successful. As the system's voice faded away, Ning Tian finally understood what the so-called 3 forms of divine punishment were. If this move was used in conjunction with the heavenly god physique's heavenly god power, the effect would be outstanding and the power would be astonishing. If it was used by an ordinary person, it would be nothing special. It seems that the so-called 3 forms of divine punishment should be the martial art created by the divine body, Ning Tian murmured. However, he had a new question. In that case, then who was the one who carved the totem murals on the first floor of the Buddha Demon Pagoda? On the first floor. What else was there? He was filled with doubts. He studied it for a while but still couldn't figure it out. Forget it. Ning Tian rubbed his head and could only give up. There were many secrets hidden in the Buddha Demon Pagoda. It was just that he needed to slowly uncover them. After studying it for a while, he could only leave the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Phew! In the secret chamber, Ning Tian heaved a sigh of relief and put away the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Looking at the time, it's time to leave, he murmured, stepped into the void, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Heavenly Demon Palace. Ning Tian stepped out of the void. There were only 2 women in the palace. Luo Wuqing was handling official business, while the Queen Mother of the West was swinging her fair and tender feet in boredom. Ancestral Master, you're getting more and more familiar with the Tao of Void. Seeing Ning Tian walk over, the Queen Mother of the West immediately looked at him, her beautiful eyes full of smiles. It's all right, Ning Tian said casually, then glanced at the Queen Mother of the West. Speaking of which, you're still the Jade Lake's sacred leader, right? Is it really okay if you don't return to the Jade Lake? Hee. The Queen Mother of the West chuckled. I'm just going back occasionally. Moreover, with Yao Shi and the Grand Elder around, the Jade Lake sacred ground doesn't need me at all unless something big happens. Hearing this, Ning Tian spread his hands. The Grand Elder and Saintess Yao Shi were both experienced people. Husband, looking at the time, you're leaving today, right? Luo Wuqing looked up from his work and glanced at Ning Tian. Ning Tian nodded slightly. I'm already preparing to leave for the Divine Land City. After saying that, he smiled at the 2 women and said jokingly, Why? Are you reluctant to part with your husband? Do you want a goodbye kiss? In your dreams. The 2 women rolled their eyes at Ning Tian. Ha ha ha. However, Ning Tian laughed loudly, took the initiative to walk over, and gave the 2 women a big kiss on their cheeks. Then, he turned around. Okay, I'm ready to leave. The 2 women nodded slightly. Luo Wuqing put down the official business in his hand. looked at Ning Tian and whispered, "Husband, come back early." Ning Tian smiled and nodded. He first took the Flame Lion King, stepped into the void, and disappeared again. The Divine Land. The Divine Land City. At this time, the entire Divine Land City was bustling. Many people gathered together and seemed to be discussing something. Have you heard? The Ancestral Master is coming to our Divine Land City. I've heard about it long ago. I still remember that the Ancestral Master caused quite a stir in the Divine Land City last time. To be honest, I was in the large group that chased after the Ancestral Master last time. Ha ha ha. It's really strange. The Ancestral Master is such a peerless expert. Why did he cause such a stir last time? This is the gap between you and the experts. Remember, never guess the thoughts of the experts. You can't figure it out. The entire Divine Land City was in an uproar. At the same time, on the Divine Land's Grand Square, the hundreds of meters tall transmission pillars stood erect. Around the transmission pillar, hundreds of officials of the Divine Land stood on the side. Boom. At this time, above the sky, several carriages came and descended from the sky. Greetings, monarch. Seeing this scene, the officials all saluted one after another. The monarch of the Divine Land and Moon Spirit came down from the carriage. He looked at the officials and smiled. No need to be so polite. Have you all prepared the spiritual origin stones? This time, it's a transmission between spirit realms. It needs a lot. Monarch, it's all ready. That's good. The monarch of the Divine Land breathed a sigh of relief. If it weren't for the lack of spiritual origin stones in his treasury, he wouldn't have ordered the officials to prepare them. As for why there weren't enough spiritual origin stones in the treasury, it was because the Ancestral Master had cheated a lot of them last time. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.